It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott is here. Well, actually, he's in Mexico City. Richard Campbell's here. He's in Ibiza, but they are, you know what? Nothing will stop them from doing Windows Weekly. We'll talk about Patch Tuesday. Microsoft finally admits 24H2 is a thing. Will Google be broken up and how? Plus some very good Xbox news if you're a Halo fan. All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 902, recorded Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Nothing to declare. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. And this today is going to be our Spanish language edition.
Nice.
Because we have Paul Thurrott. He's in Mexico City. Hi, Paul.
Hola, Leo.
Hola, Paul. And in Ibiza, which I believe, last time I checked, is in Spain.
It is part of Spain.
Part of Spain. Richard, it's an island, part of Spain. Richard Campbell.
Yeah.
Hi, Richard.
Just off the coast of Valencia. It's beautiful here.
Oh, it is gorgeous. I love Ibiza. And then the guy who founded Cirque du Soleil built a massive mansion there out on the point.
Does Gates fly there all the time?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
And there's a little mini Stonehenge that he built, kind of like a little stone clock.
As you do.
As one does, right across the way. So just a little something.
I got my Arrow update on January 10th.
Oh, we both were comparing. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you may remember, I've almost forgotten, back in July, we ordered the Qualcomm Snapdragon Elite Developer Kit from Thundercom Technology. And it's been putting off. There have been all sorts of hitches. Jeff Gerstmann got one, or who got one? Somebody. Gerling got one. But we now have the same date, January 10th, 2025.
Jeez Louise.
Next year, we're going to get it.
Chip out by the time this thing arrives.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't want it. Well, didn't they send us an email saying you don't have to
change it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that read like a threat.
You got 10% off.
Absolutely.
What do you want?
Yeah. No, I think I'll definitely make them ship it here and then I'll return it.
Ship it to Spain?
Exactly.
No, ship it.
And then Leo will get it.
There you go.
There's one circulating.
Just going around.
Just keep it clean. We got to move it along.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they do with review units sometimes, right? You get old review units that are kind of a little beat up and
sticky,
and sometimes have pictures that you wish weren't on there.
I've never seen that, but
I have actually.
Have you?
Way back in the day. Yeah, I had a phone from I think Sprint that had somebody else's pictures on it.
Oh,
no, boy.
I don't do loaners anymore,
no good.
so I'm missing out on all the fun these days. But all right, so back to the business at hand, i.e., Microsoft, and dare I say it,
IE around here in Microsoft land, Leo. I don't know.
Careful.
Therefore,
I don't know what that was all
We're all a
about.
little sensitive.
Let's talk Windows 11, gentlemen.
Speaking of former empires.
Nice.
Yeah. So yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday was Patch Tuesday.
Okay.
The most wonderful time of the month.
It's the most.
Until week D comes in.
And after months and months of anticipation,
Yep.
24H2 is a real boy.
Yeah. So 22, 23, 24H2 all got cumulative updates, basically the same update. There were actually two separate updates. This was the last one for 22H2. As we know, it's going out of service at the end of the month, I guess, or at some point this month. And for the first time, 24H2 is on the Microsoft support site. And what I mean by that is if you Google something like Microsoft updates or whatever, you can see a list of all of the updates that Microsoft has ever released for each of the versions of Windows 11. But 24H2 has been missing from that collection of lists, I guess.
It's just kind of not been real. It's just been an insider's thing, right?
Yeah. So every month when Patch Tuesday came, or Week D as well, Laurent, the guy who writes the news, would text me and say, hey, Could you look this up? Because I can't find it. Because you can't, unless you know the KB number, you could never go find the support article linked to the update. So I would do that every month and find it. So those articles were all out there kind of floating, but not linked to anything. But now there's a page.
Indexed, which is weird,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So they went back. You can get all the updates now going back to June there and see what they were.
Did he Bing it? Maybe it was only on Bing.
Did he? No, you couldn't do it. Like you could if you unless you had the if you had the KB
hysterical.
number, you could, but you
Right.
needed that.
Why
That
would
was
they
like-
You
not
needed to know.
have an index? That's crazy.
Is a version of Windows real and if it doesn't fall in the woods? I don't know.
Yeah, too, but they say, well, if nobody knows the link, it's private.
Yeah.
Nobody
Well-
knows the KB number.
Yeah, like I don't know. If you bought a Copilot Plus PC in June, July, whatever, you're getting updates every month. You might want to know what they are. I mean, it's fully supported by Microsoft. You could have installed it early using that tip I had back in May. Fully supported. Microsoft's business customers could be deploying this in their environments. But it was like it didn't exist. So now that it's out for everybody, as it was as of October 1st, I believe. And now we've had our first Patch Tuesday. It's like, hey, look, it's our first update, except we've actually had 19 of them so far. So just, Microsoft. Anyway, no surprises. We know the things that we knew the things that were coming. None of them are particularly, well, actually one of them's pretty cool. So if you hit the start button and then click on your little picture, Sign Out is back. They brought it back out. So it used
What's
to be under
that? Sign Out?
Sign Out, sorry.
Oh, Sign
It used
Out.
to be available there. They replaced that menu
Right.
with a new interface that's pointless. And they put it under a little sub menu. Now it's brought back out. So huge change. There's not much. And like I said, even though the KB or the cumulative updates were different between 22, 23, and 24H2, it's basically the same, same set of updates. So I would say right now there's probably a bunch of people experiencing not a lot new, because even if they do get 24H2, they probably had all those features anyway. So we're all on this kind of weird controlled feature release CFR roulette wheel, and we'll just see where, one day you're going to wake up and there's going to be new features or a new feature, and that's our world. So there you go. And then I'm just going to throw this out here because I feel like people listening or watching this might have the book, but the Windows 11 Field Guide is being updated for 24H2. That's going to be one of the big things I do this month. And I don't know the number, but I've already updated several of the chapters. They're all kind of the basic chapters, but hopefully I think each one of them has at least something new in it. So if you own the book, download it again because it's been updated. It will be, and I'll every week or so I'll send out an email. So
Isn't that sad? You can never go on vacation really because Microsoft
well,
never goes on vacation.
I'm just shifting locations. I'm not on vacation. I'm just here.
If I were in Mexico City, I'd kind of want to at least pretend I was on vacation.
So I mean,
I'm
well,
wearing the
we
shirt
eat
just
out a
for
lot.
you.
Yeah.
You're a work in the morning guy, right? Like I
Yeah.
do that most of the time too. Work till lunch, and then off you go. And
That's
you play
actually
for the
great.
afternoon.
That's a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my home swap schedule. Although we don't do home swaps anymore, it's nice. Except
I'm a sleep in the morning kind of guy.
Actually, I did comment to my we were walking around and I said, I haven't really taken any pictures. I usually I always walk
which
around
is
like click, like whatever.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We've kind of done the same things enough times where it's like, I don't know. Or I'll take pictures and then
But this is how you know
post them.
that place is becoming home, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you don't
right.
want to photograph it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, and the other way is, we've been gone for a couple of months, right? So we're walking down the street and then you stop and you're like, that's new. Like there's a
Wow, you
there's
really
like a
are
new little
local.
business or a sign or
Yep, something's changed.
I took a picture of a thing, I don't know what it's called, not a cornice, but something up on the corner of a building. Like I don't think that was there.
Wow.
And I went and looked up. I went through all my pictures. I'm like, and I'm like, there it is. No, it's not there. So it was new. Like I actually noticed
you are
this
a local.
weird little concrete thing on a building.
There you go.
But yeah, this is I don't know, whatever. This is my life. I don't know. Anyhow, yeah. So I like Leo's shirt. I wouldn't wear that here. I'm here. I don't need to wear a shirt. But when
That's
I'm
a good
home, I
point.
would,
Would you, if you looked at me wearing this shirt, walking
like,
down the street,
tourist,
say, Gringo, tourist,
probably wearing
Yeah.
flip flops, carrying a MacBook, talking loudly on a phone. I could peg
When's
you as
the
an
market
American in like
close?
2
Because
seconds.
I'd like to put my order in now if I can.
Sell.
Sell.
I'm never coming back.
Welcome back to Roma Norte.
I will have you know these shirts are made in Mexico. San Miguel is sort of Mexico. San Miguel de Allende by local seamstresses with local print fabrics.
Nice.
And I just bought 5 more because I love them so much.
Yeah.
And I had stopped wearing them. I was wearing a neck, not a necktie, but a jacket, a blazer, and a dress shirt.
Yeah, you used to be very professional, I remember.
I decided I don't need to be professional. I'm home. So
this is what happens from working from home, right?
I actually thought it looks a little better in the colorful
I
surroundings.
think so too, actually. It looks great.
To wear a shirt that has something going on.
Has the pop. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will tell you, though, walking around Mexico City at least, and probably a lot of Mexico, you wouldn't see a nice shirt like that usually. I mean, of course, people do dress up, but most of the people here are wearing like the throwaway shirts. It would be like the team that lost the Super Bowl one year, but they made the shirts, Or you'll see a guy wearing like a Red Sox sweatshirt and a Yankees hat, and he's like, dude,
Sergeant
really?
Shriver for president shirt, things like that.
Yeah. It's just it's
old stuff.
It's where shirts go to die.
But Mexico, and I guess it's more dressy, but they have some beautiful like muslin, very thin cotton with embroidery shirts. I love those.
Yeah,
Those are beautiful.
And of course, here, because it's 65 degrees during the day now, people are wearing those puffy Michelin jackets you would wear in the winter.
It's so cold.
Yeah.
It's so cold.
They're all freaking out. We walked in shorts with this bar. We go to, everyone's wearing winter coats.
Oh, that's
What's going on in here? Did the freezer break open?
Oh,
or something?
that's hysterical.
Yeah, very strange.
Very funny. All right. Well, there's our travelogue break.
Yeah, sorry. So,
Now let's continue with the exciting Windows news.
So since last week's release of 24H2, I was going to say since Patch Tuesday, although actually one of these has happened since, Microsoft has started churning on the builds again in the Windows Insider preview, right? So last week,
24H2 is out of the Insiders, so we get new stuff.
well, so
Is it?
No, not exactly, right?
Oh,
This
boy.
is where things get complicated. So I don't even know off the top of my head. I believe with Dev is in fact, let me just look to be sure. I don't want to say this if it's a mistake. It will say here somewhere. I think Dev is still on still based on the 24H2 branch or fork or whatever. So these are updates that will come to 24H2 over the next, several months. Canary is not tied to anything. The last time I checked, beta was tied to 23H2. Well, actually, I should look that one up too. Let's see if that's still the case because, 23H2, I almost Ibiza that is also carrying forward, right? So they're going to probably get the same sorts of updates, alongside 24H2. So I think it's just Canary that's not really tied to anything for now.
So maybe that's Windows 12.
I spent a lot of time speculating about Windows 12 last year. I'm going to hold off on that for now because,
that's legit.
24H2 was supposed to be Windows 12 and someone decided to reel that in at the last second. So
I suspect we could just wait till Apple releases a new version of Mac OS and then,
I think maybe they need to change Copilot in Windows 11 2 more times before we get to Windows 12. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
You got to get Copilot for Windows and Windows for Copilot. And
yes, right. I was just writing a bit in the book about the Copilot versus Copilot Plus thing, and this will be endlessly fascinating until both these terms are gone. Or not fascinating, confusing. Until it's not fascinating in the slightest. It's just confusing until one or both go away eventually, which I think they will. Anywho, the dev build has added such things as customizing that Copilot key that nobody wanted.
Right.
And then, some other stuff related to some of the stuff we've already talked about. The new sandbox that's coming, which looks kind of interesting, et cetera, but nothing major. And then we just got a build of Canary today.
Right.
As well, which is not particularly interesting, actually. There's not much going on there. I think right now what we're seeing is a lot of these builds, even though they're different channels, are kind of aligning from a feature standpoint, just like we see out in stable with 23 and 24H2. So, okay. We have a bunch of other stuff related to Windows that will come up right now and then later. And it's kind of split up. But the Passkey bit is in 23H2. Microsoft released and announced for some reason Passkey support in Windows 11. There's not much going on.
How does it work? I mean,
it doesn't. That's the easiest way to say it. It doesn't. It doesn't do anything.
I'm curious because Passkeys I mean,
Yeah.
with my password manager, that kind of makes sense.
Yep.
I use it with my phone. That kind of makes sense. Would Windows 11 have a some sort of secure enclave where it would store your
It would.
passkeys?
And in fact, it does. Yes. And so they do the same thing you see on mobile. It's tied to your
I guess that
account,
makes
your
sense.
Microsoft account.
Yeah.
It is.
Is it
the
tied to
authentic-
that computer though?
No. Sorry. Yes. The answer is yes. But they
Okay.
also have Passkey support separately in your Microsoft account. So one of the so I should just say, just to kind of frame this, when they announced this support last year, it was very basic, and they didn't explain it very well. But what I discovered was that when you sign into a Windows 11 23 H2 Plus computer, or newer computer, I should say, it actually creates a passkey for your Microsoft account or your Enter ID account when you do that. There's not much you can do with that thing. It's kind of silly. But I suppose if you're using Microsoft Edge and you sign into the Microsoft something website, it would pass that through. You'd have to authenticate with Windows Hello, which could be as simple as a PIN. It's kind of always been the case. The difference is that it was saved as a passkey. This is kind of new. But then they spent the next year not doing anything else with it. And, when I looked at it probably in December, it just wasn't much there. Since then, they've added partial support for passkeys to the Microsoft account as well. That, again, same thing, not full support. It's actually more full-featured in your Microsoft account than it is in Windows 11. So yesterday or the day before, they announced it's not here yet, but in the coming weeks or days or whatever, they will be updating the passkey support in Windows 11. And actually, one of these is pretty cool because they're doing that portable passkey thing, right? They're going to tie it to your account. You're going to authenticate with Windows Hello again. And once you do that on one computer, that will be available to you on other computers. So this is the thing that's not in the spec, but Microsoft is working with the maintainers of the spec at the FIDO Alliance, and it will become part of it, right? So when you see companies like Dashlane, I know does this, Proton Pass, and I think
Bitwarden does it. Yeah.
Bitwarden,
Yep.
1Password, et cetera. So
Our sponsor. Yeah.
The problem right now with Passkeys is that you've got the browser, the operating system, and your plugin trying to compete for who gets your passkey.
Right.
Yeah,
And you really
and-
want to settle on one, I think,
Yeah,
right?
you want it in
also
one
have,
place.
there are also implementations where you'll sign into something in a web browser on desktop, let's say, and it says it will just go to passkey, and you're like, nice. And so you say, yes, I'll do this.
Right.
And then it puts up a QR code because it can only
Right.
work off the passkey that's on your
'Cause it's
phone.
on
And
the
it's like,
phone.
guys, I have a passkey on this system. So
Yeah.
I think this is
Very
just
frustrating.
Yeah, I think it's early days. This will be, standardized somewhat from a UI perspective. We'll get there, but
In Windows defense, it's the same on every platform.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not any
And
better.
everybody's
by the way,
struggling with
so-
this right now.
Yeah.
Everyone who's used an Apple device knows that Apple has a very unique take on 2FA, right? That when you sign into Apple's website or into one of their services or whatever it is, it pops up an alert on another Apple device.
Yeah, that's kind of cool if you
Yeah,
have another
it's
Apple
cool if you
product.
have another Apple device.
Yes.
So, or have any Apple device, right? So if
Right.
I'm on a Windows computer and I want to go to Apple Music on the web, I'll just make something up. It's going to throw a thing up. Right now, I was recently in a circumstance where I didn't have any Apple device with me, and I had never had that happen. I was like, what's going to happen here? But actually, they just fall back to
Yeah, you could do a phone
text
number,
message
a
or
text
something
message.
like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but the way they do it is very interesting because they don't present it as a choice. You're doing this.
Right.
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 And then if it fails or you have to say, look, I can't do this, then you can go do something else. Honestly,
Which
it's
is
not a
what
bad
you kind of want because
Yeah, it's not
you
a
don't.
bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want the
use
bad
most
guy.
secure process
Yep.
first, right?
Right.
I do like that, and that's why it reminds me of the passkey experience I see sometimes in Windows and probably on the web, on mobile too, but mostly in Windows, where that thing I described, it comes up with a QR code or something. It's like, guys, I have a passkey right here. It's in the computer you're
It
running
should
on.
see that.
I know.
That's what I
And
don't
so this is on Microsoft, I think, to some degree, but I think this world is just confusing for everybody.
Yes.
So anyhow,
Yeah, and I think there's conversations in the FIDO Alliance, and then at the same time, people, right? And so I think they're building these implementations and then using them in the conversations, the same way that HTML5 went through its iterations with each of the browser manufacturers, just putting features out there and we were fools to use them because they would suddenly take them away too.
Right.
So
But then they would use them as a negotiating tactic in the committee.
One thing the FIDO Alliance did at first, and I think is still existing, is they didn't have a way to export passkeys to move them from platform to platform. I think that was a security feature, but I think it's increasingly.
Well, it's just like Microsoft did with Recall. Look, it's on device. It's this device. It's isolated.
Yeah,
it sounds good from a kind of a security posture perspective, but if we have encryption and these services are secure, we have 2FA, et cetera. I mean, come on. Yeah. There's always this battle between convenience and security, and convenience always wins. I can't tell you, it freaks me out. Even technical people, you talk to them. I have friends who don't have a passcode on their phone. Like, it's too much time.
Oh, that's terrible.
What are you doing? Your entire life is on this device. Come on, man.
Yeah.
But I think there is passkeys have kind of a bad rap. I think the way this will be presented in the future is that it's passwordless is what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
And it's a 2FA kind of a thing. And it we all have these like something, something, whatever. But it really is the most convenient way to do this thing the most secure way. Right. And I think for most people, that's some form of something on their phone, whatever, that we had a hard time accepting this with Recall. I don't know why that keeps coming up, but that Windows Hello could somehow be secure enough that all the other stuff people complain about didn't matter. But when we authenticate on a phone, whether it's an authenticator app I'm trying to get into or a code that's being displayed or whatever it is, I bring the thing up and it gives me choices sometimes, or sometimes it makes me do something, but a lot of times it's facial. Sometimes it says, look, I want you to do the fingerprint. Sometimes you have to do this. Sometimes it sends a code. Sometimes you type a code, whatever it is. Mix it up. Just do that every time. And the idea is whatever happens every time you authenticate, it's passwordless, right? You're not typing in some stupid 26-digit password or whatever. So I think that's the goal, right?
That's always the bear, right? It's when getting a new device lit up, like, oh yeah, I can't do a thing with this Pixel until I log into my Google account, and that is a 32 random character password.
So I have I use Pocket for read later, right? It's a great service. I love it. Whatever. Mozilla bought it. Fine. I like Mozilla a lot. No problem. At some point, they said, look, you had some kind of whatever account you had. We're going to transition this over to what used to be a Firefox account, but now is a Mozilla account, I think. Excellent. I like Mozilla. I trust Mozilla. I don't care. And now they're like, all right, listen, you have to have 2FA. We're going to protect this thing because God knows your read later is so important that no one can see what you're reading on the web. So you have to do 2FA. Now, I just said, I think this is the baseline. You should have to do this, and it should, whatever. Theirs is particularly tedious, and because I use so many different computers, I have to sign into this thing twice on every computer because you need the one that goes into the browser. Actually, it's at least twice, I should say, because that's how you can save an article. You have the extension. So every browser, and I use 4 browsers, right? Or 5 even, depending on the computer. And then you have to sign in on the site. Even though you just signed into the extension, you still have to do it again. So I'm looking at Instapaper right now because I can't stand it. I just
look at, guys. Can I make a recommendation? There's a program I use I really like, and I've used it for some time. It's not free. It's like $20 a month. It's called Raindrop.io.
Is that what I think someone just recommended that to me.
Yeah. So it's it's a book. It says it's a bookmark manager. Okay, that's the ostensibly what it does, but it will, like Pocket, save the whole article for reading later
in a nice format without any distractions.
I'll show you my Raindrop. What I really like.
Well, Leo, don't. It's supposed to have 2FA, and it's supposed to be protected.
I have the desktop app, right? Yeah. And so there's different ways you can look at your articles. You can use a list, but you can also do cards.
It's like an RSS feed almost.
Yeah, it's like an RSS feed. I've been moved all the shows that I used to use Pinboard as a bookmark manager. I moved all my shows over to this. I find it really great. So anyway, take a look at it. There's a free tier. You could certainly try it before you buy it. But I'm very happy
what someone
with
just recommended.
And again, it's all about the sync between machines, so that it doesn't matter what device you pick up, it's there.
Raindrop is everywhere. I have it on all my machines, on my phone,
it's key.
On everything.
If I'm somewhere with my phone, I have 5 seconds, whatever. I'm like, oh, what's going here? I love this kind of thing.
No, I have Raindrop, and it works on Android, iOS, Mac, Windows. It would work on Linux because there's a web interface. I think it's a really I don't know, for a read later, if it's ideal for read later, it will do that, but it's,
Right.
I take big excerpts from each article, so I know what I'm talking about. You know what you need maybe some sort of thing with AI that would summarize, like a pocket with AI.
Maybe I'm old, but I like to actually read the thing.
Oh, you're crazy. Knock yourself out.
I mean, a lot
does
of it.
that?
A lot of it is. My use of this is split. I would say probably, maybe I'll just say 50-50. I'm not really sure, but between long form content that I actually do want to read.
Yeah.
And I want it to be in this nice presentation, whatever. And then they're just things for me to remind me. So in the morning, I'll look at it and say, right, I want to write about this thing. It's just
that's what Raindrop's really good for. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, if you, even if it didn't have the read later, you could click the link. And I'm pretty sure it will download the article and put a read later on it. But anyway, it's worth a look.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. Let's get on.
Yeah.
So what are we doing here?
You want to talk about what laptops did you bring with you to beautiful?
Oh, by the way, not to keep turning this into a travelogue, but one of the big stories about Mexico that people keep putting in front of me is this notion that you fly to Mexico and you have some kind of number of devices in your bag and they pull you aside and they make you pay a tax on this. So I've never seen this.
Like you're importing these things.
Right. Then you're going to sell them
for sale.
Right?
Yeah.
So I've always, being apprised of this, I've always thought I will show them the emails from Lenovo or HP or whatever saying, see, I'm doing this for work and whatever.
Yeah.
But I do worry about it. It's never happened to my knowledge in Mexico City. A friend of ours who visited us here a couple of years ago flew through Merida, and it happened to him there. He paid $180.
Wow.
Yeah. And it happens very frequently, I think, in Cancun. That's like the big thing. So
every time I come Cancun here, with many laptops and never had that happen.
Okay. But the stories I
it's
hear,
probably hit and miss, right? It's like
the third party or the third hand stories I hear are always Cancun. Anyway, so we fly here. Yeah. We flew her in a different airline because we flew through Dallas. It was Aero Mexico, and we flew into Terminal 2, which is not. We usually always go into Terminal 1. So this was new. It's a completely different experience. And at the end, there's these two lines where they're pushing all the bags through these machines to scan them. And I'm like, I came here with 4 laptops, 2 tablets, and three phones.
This is all for personal use, man. It's all personal use.
Doing work.
So I'm like, okay.
I'm not pushing it, man. It's for me, man.
We get to we're right before this machine. There's 2 of them. The line splits. And I got into the middle between the 2 lines and I read the sign. And the sign said, if you have nothing to declare, you can just walk by. You don't have to put your stuff in the bag. No one was doing it. Everyone is lemming like going through the machine.
Right. They're not paying attention.
So I read the sign. I said, I have nothing to declare. Of course, I always say, I do declare. Anyway, and I walked right out of there and I got grabbed by a security guy and he pulled me back in and he made me put my bag through the machine.
Really?
Even though it said.
And I said, but sir, he says, it doesn't matter. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it went through and I'm like, here we go. You can kiss, what is that? $360 or whatever.
Jesus.
So it went through and it came out and no one said anything. And I took my bag and I walked on out of there. And I don't have any idea what they were looking for.
Some
Clearly
places
was not
in
electronics.
Mexico I've been to, there's a button there, and you hit the button as you're going through, and it randomly selects whether you go to the bag to look through them or not. I think that was in Cancun. I've seen it several times.
I call this the royal treatment. I never want to be that guy because I always have so much stuff. Please don't
really.
I mean,
honestly, if I saw you had like several, like 4 laptops.
No. Listen, the bag is small. I look like a normal person.
You look like you're a smuggler.
Like a serial killer might. You know, like you might fool people, but
that's hysterical. Well, I
don't understand why the bag didn't go through and like stop, go back. The guy
that's one of those
over the corner. That's what I was, and I'm like, and then you never hear from me again. But I don't know what they were. I don't know.
Do you have any special status? I mean, or are you just an American tourist when you come in?
We have residency.
You have residence.
Yeah.
So I think you could say, look, I live here. I smuggle laptops for a living.
Right. I go on this run every week, man. What's the problem?
I have a license for it.
No. I don't know. Oh, I also had 2 speakers. I forgot some of the stuff I had. So it doesn't matter. I brought a lot of stuff.
I brought an entire podcast studio to Rhode Island when I was visiting my mom, so I could do a show from there. And I, of course, got pulled over.
Yes.
And the guy's looking at it. He says, a microphone, right? I think he knew who I was.
Because it looks like a pipe bomb.
It does
Yeah.
look exactly like a pipe bomb. I mean, it's scary looking.
Yeah, we had a hub. We had a microphone. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But so he knew before he even went in, this is going to be a microphone, isn't it? I said, yeah, it's a microphone. He said, okay. He still looked at it and pulled it out. But
Yeah.
yeah. I think he figured out what was going on. You look like a podcaster, kid.
Yeah, I look like a smuggler.
Well, I'm glad you made it through with your Lenovo
Yeah.
Yoga Slim
Didn't have to pay your
7i 15
taxes.
Aura Edition.
So actually, that
Laptop.
one was delivered to my apartment here. It was waiting for me when we arrived. I got the the day
That's
the day
additional
before we
machines.
flew. I got
He has five machines, and there's
I know.
one waiting for him.
I know. I got an
Person use,
email.
man.
They shipped the thing, and I'm thinking, okay, I'll get it like next week, or this, now this week. And we got there, and the guy said I had what do you say, un paquete, waiting for me. So anyway, yeah. So this is my first experience with the Lunar Lake.
Oh, it's a Lunar Lake.
Okay.
Neat.
So now I have a Lunar Lake and also a Zen 5 laptop to kind of compare. So we'll see.
Looks pretty.
Yeah, it is pretty. It's a
I like the
beautiful laptop.
Yogas. I've had several Yogas. And
This one does that thing that I really like too, where it's a large screen. I think it's bigger. I think it's 15 point something, but it's but it does the keyboard in the center, not with the numpad. Which I always have trouble with.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep, I love it. So it's a beautiful machine, and it is.
Looks like a Mac.
Well,
That
this
looks
is the
crazy.
thing.
Like
So
an
I'm gonna reach out to Ryan and talk to Ryan Trout, and talk to him about this stuff. But we've talked about this a little bit. I was at IFA, and where do these things land? And the consensus seems to be that Intel did the anti-Intel thing, and this thing is actually really good for portability.
Because it has
Right.
performance and efficiency cores, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the thing they never really did.
Right. Yeah, they're copying ARM.
Yeah. So assuming reliability is there and everything, it should be pretty good, especially for this sort of productivity device, right? It's I threw some games on there. I haven't had a chance to run them yet, but I'll compare that to the.
And I think when we were doing a show with Mike, I talked about I want to build a Copilot Plus PC desktop.
Can you?
Yeah. Well,
Not yet.
not yet, but it's coming.
They'd have to have what? Copilot Plus motherboards, right?
Well,
Yeah.
the sticking point is going to be this Windows Hello ESS thing right now. So to get the spec, you have to have the MPU. Everyone knows that. But the thing that we don't really talk about that much is all the undercover stuff that has to be happening
the
at the
authentication
factory.
stuff.
All that stuff, right? So you can't plug in an external webcam, and it's like, okay, well, you don't have Windows ESS anymore.
No,
Windows.
you need an ESS caliber camera.
But you can buy those. They are for sale. Is there a
not for
special
not for
chip
ESS? No, not for ESS. Right now, there's no
You could buy a
external device.
Windows Hello camera, but it's not.
Yeah, it just
ESS.
so.
ESS,
But here's the thing: you have a Copilot Plus PC. You're like, well, I have to use this webcam. I have to use this whatever device. Okay, you're not using Windows Hello ESS anymore. You're just using Windows Hello. Okay, but I mean, I'm still using the computer, so I still get all the features.
Yeah.
There's no way that what Richard wants to do is not going to happen. It's just a matter of timing. So
Yes.
Really?
the next step is going to be PC makers selling, desktops.
Can you
right?
build an Evo computer, for instance?
No, because to get that spec, you have to submit a test to Intel
See, that's
that
what I'm
shows that
thinking.
you.
Is it's more like Evo than it is
Well,
DIY.
it's Copilot Plus as a brand is that thing. It's a brand, right? But it does,
Right.
you don't get anything special for having an Evo computer. When you have a Copilot Plus PC, you get all those additional AI features, and they just announced a bunch more, right?
Right.
So
the OS looks at your hardware and
yeah,
says, "Oh
to
yeah,
my
you're
mind,
eligible."
you should be able to get. I can't imagine they're not going to allow this in some amount of time, right? We'll see.
Well, you
and
know
I-
them
and I-
better than I, but it seems to me they would not allow that. But
I think
Well,
that-
and I just want to, and I'm obviously thinking it has to be at least after November when whatever restrictions with Qualcomm pass.
yeah.
But
Well, plus
that's in November?
you're going to
Is
want
that
Arrow
November?
Lake. You're going to want the
yeah, it is
desktop.
6 months after the announcements. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want a faster machine. You want a desktop class chip in there for starters.
You want-
Lunar Lake is not going to.
the Qualcomm Snapdragon Elite Developer Kit.
What do I have to do to get you into the Snapdragon today
Yeah.
in January?
Well, and one of the things I suggested was that I'd actually build it on the Discord.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that if you did that.
Yeah.
Oh
Well, and then
my God. I'll host
the
that if you want. I would love that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And but here's the kicker on top of that is I normally take the old hardware and I give it to a student who needs a machine, right? We help them build a machine at the same time.
Oh, nice.
So I've now gotten looped into the local high school where we've moved up to now. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole conversation going on about actually doing the video production in the school with the students.
Oh, that would be so great, Richard.
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Oh,
right?
we would. I would kiss you right now if you weren't.
This
That
has
is
turned
really
into a
great.
very
I
strange
It's a lot
episode.
easier to do it in Ibiza because the kissing is pretty normal
Everybody's
around
kissing
here.
everybody else. Why not?
I know there's been more kissing since I've been here than there has been in the past 8 years
That
of my
means
life.
you're in a happy place. That's
Anyway, I'm glad you're excited about that, Leo, because I think
I love
there's a bunch
that
of kids
idea.
who'd like to do a video production. It's fun to build a machine and to show these guys how this stuff works, and we'll spit out a couple of computers in the process.
And look, and in the end, who cares if you get the Copilot Plus features then or later or never? You're still got this awesome whatever it is, computer.
And it's just, I know I've got an older machine that's I'm ready to do a teardown on, and I'm trying to retire the last of those old rack mount cases. And so in the process, I help set a kid up with a machine who otherwise wouldn't have one. And,
Good on you.
we build a good computer. And you know what? All this stuff is easy, right? And it beats the hell out of recycling.
We could do
actually
a
build a
charity
machine for
stream
someone.
or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Like I see the pieces coming together, but for me, it just kills me that I kick hardware out because I need something new, and there's nothing wrong with it. So can you give it a?
There's also this. There's been a lot of artificial kind of hardware requirements in Windows 11, or you get these subtle year-over-year updates every year. And it's like, what's the big deal? But I do feel like we've crossed some line with these new CPUs where computers have gotten really interesting again. And it might, I don't think in the general public,
build them.
It's a good time. Yeah, I think so. It's very interesting. Like things are changing. It's kind of cool.
Well, it's something we would do on Tech TV all the time, and it was very popular. And then even when we started Twit, we built the ultimate VR gaming machine and stuff.
I remember when you guys got the Surface Studio that Robert
and then Robert
took the hard drive out of it and put the SSD into it.
Upgraded it. Yeah. People love that, even if something maybe people don't do that much anymore. It's a great learning.
That's why
you're at least showing people this is why you don't do this.
Well, there's also halfway steps. You could buy like a NUC kit when they made those or whatever other things they have, like that B-bomb or whatever, and then buy the components, and you're just plugging in M2 cards and some RAM and stuff. But it's
together.
You're still doing your own little thing there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, and it's all that. Take your time with do a little grounding and make sure you build this in the right order. I'm very particular about putting thermal paste on to get
that's
that
a
thing
good
seated
one.
properly.
I usually just do the whole body. I don't know if you just do your face.
You
paste my body.
You put their thermal paste wherever you need.
Get like a nice shiny
Paste
glow.
in the basket. Yeah. So good. Let's do it. Let's plan on that. I love that idea. That's something I know our audience would love. It's really
see if we can
fun.
get it done by the end of the year.
Okay.
That's my higher.
You just tell me when. We'll help you. Good. That's great. It'll
be fun.
Idea. Hey, let's take a pause that refreshes. Then we can talk about the fact that today the Department of Justice said, we want to break up Google.
Yeah.
We just want to break them up. How's that? How would that work?
As you
They're
do.
just throwing it out there.
Let's just throw it out there.
Don't
know what
fan
pieces.
fiction, and that's the thing we came up with.
Oh my
There you go. I was thinking.
Our show. Wow. You're watching Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. More to come, but first a word from our sponsor. This is a good sponsor for this show. I feel like everybody should be using this product, Veeam. Do you know about Veeam? Veeam. I have to confess, I didn't. But data resilience is now topic one in almost every business. Without your data, your customers' trust turns to digital dust. That's why Veeam's data protection and, for underline these two words, ransomware recovery ensures that you can secure and restore your enterprise data wherever and whenever you need it, no matter what happens. Number one, global market leader in data resilience. Let me give you a stat that's going to blow your mind. Veeam is trusted by over 77% of the Fortune 500. 77% of the Fortune 500 use Veeam to keep their businesses running when digital disruptions like ransomware strike. This is so important. In fact, you got to wonder what's wrong with those other 23%. What are they doing? Well, I'll tell you what, they're getting in the newspaper headlines: breach, ransomware, multi-million-dollar ransomware payments. Don't do it. You got Veeam. Veeam lets you back up and recover your data instantly, no matter where it is across your entire cloud ecosystem. With Veeam, you can proactively detect malicious activity, so maybe even you don't even get bit in the first place. Veeam also, I think this is so important, removes the guesswork by automating your recovery plans and policies. You do have a recovery plan and policy, right? Well, Veeam makes it easy. Plus, Veeam has great support, real-time support from ransomware recovery experts, so you're never on your own. Look, we know this. Data is the lifeblood of your business, so get data resilient with Veeam. VEEAM, Veeam.com to learn more. Veeam. Seems to me a no-brainer. Veeam.com. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. All right, I promised you we would get into this Google thing, so let's do it.
As it turns out, there are two Google things.
Okay.
Tough week for Google.
in court.
In an antitrust sense. So they've lost at least a couple of antitrust cases in the United States, one against Epic Games. And some months ago, the judge in that case went to Epic and said, speaking of fan fiction, why don't you tell me what you'd like to see? And Epic came out with what I did at the time describe as fan fiction. And then the judge said, yeah, let's just do that. So he is basically ordering Google for a period of 3 years to open up the Google Play Store and the Android app ecosystem in Android to third parties, right? And it is a sweeping series of requirements. It's pretty brutal. Wow. It's everything you could dream of and more, is I guess the only way to say it.
I'm not even thinking about the Epic Store. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Steam.
Yes. Well, this is right.
This would be the moment for Gabe to make the move into Steam for mobile.
Yep. I think we're going to see a lot of these third-party stores. Part of it is they have to open up the Google Play catalog to these stores so that they can display all those apps and games in third-party stores as well. Now, that doesn't mean Google doesn't get paid. They can, we're not trying to, you have to give stuff away for 3 years. That's not really how this works. And of course, Google's appealing, and there'll be months and years and whatever. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, this is far from done. And like I said, I expect this to be a consent decree in the end. But I don't think they're going to win this app store thing. I think this net is broken open. I bet you Apple's choked. Because if it goes through with Google, it's going to happen to Apple too.
That's the thing. Once you establish this legal precedent, now people can say, okay, but we won our case.
Destruction of a business, right?
Doesn't matter. We have precedent. So we'll see what happens. But okay. So I thought that was pretty big. And then this week happened, and there was not a new ruling exactly, but in the broader, the bigger antitrust case against Google for its for its search monopoly and advertising and all the stuff that's tied into it. They were found guilty, are appealing, et cetera. But this judge in that case went to the DOJ and said, if you could have anything, what would you ask for? And the DOJ did not leave anything off the table as a possibility. So, it's impossible for this not to summon memories of Microsoft, right? It's weird.
Oh yeah, it seems so similar.
It is so similar. It's literally the same sort of behavior, the same commingling, the same tying of one product. It is the same. Google, of course, has a market that is, it's weird to even say this out loud. It may even be 10 times bigger than the market Microsoft was addressing with PCs and Windows back in the late 90s. It's incredible. The number of billions of people that this impacts, although in the United States, smaller, but this is an interesting conversation, and it's only a conversation because appeals in years and years, and we'll see. The judge will come at some point with, his recommendation, or it will actually be the consent decree, I guess. It'll be a consent decree. What he determines needs to happen.
I don't see this as all break-upable, really.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of strategies, and that's pretty tough. It's better that they build a consent decree for like
opening a behavioral type thing, you're saying?
Yeah. In the end, that's what you want, is you get rid of the anti-monopolistic practices.
Yeah, this brings out the crazies, this kind of conversation in a way, because there are the people that just don't want anything to happen to these companies. There are the people who are just as crazy on the other side that want it to be splintered into 5 million pieces and spread around the earth. And we don't want that. We all have.
Well, and it's in the end, it's like what harms the customer, right? Like this is all Sherman Act stuff. Yep. Where they're all going back to, the customer is being harmed because prices are being driven up because of the way the
innovation has stopped. That some of this is intangible.
And there's a case for all of that.
Yeah, people have a hard time understanding that if Google did not have this monopoly, how much good stuff could have been happening by third parties. Doesn't guarantee that happens, but prices would be lower. There'd be more choice, et cetera, et cetera. So
but the remedy cannot cause harm in the process.
I mean, the remedy's probably going to cause harm, but yes, but ideally, you're
it can cause harm to Google, right? But not anybody else.
Well, but that's an interesting point too.
To win.
So, just to make it simple, when Microsoft was going to be broken up, I believe at the time the plan. At one time there was ideas about different plans, but the plan, as I understand it or recall it, was there were two companies, right? Yeah. The operating system company and the app company. I think was just
and the everything else company. Yeah.
As a shareholder of that company, you would have received a share in each company, so you'd probably be doing pretty good. That would probably work out. I think from an economy standpoint, this might actually be seen as a good thing, right? I mean,
Dvorak always said this would be great. You get for everybody,
right? And I think we face the same situation here. If there was some logical split where you say, well, look, we have to break the tie between your ad monopoly, which is 70% of Google's revenues, and the things that distribute it and or maintain or extend it, right? And so what are those things? Android and Chrome and search, right? I mean, so is there some version of Google that exists that is only some of that? Is there some version?
Search in one can and everything else in the other can.
Yeah.
I kind of wish Google would be forced to divest YouTube. I feel like, but that's not part of the thing here. They're really trying to advertise.
It's not part of what they discussed, but it could be because I don't know this off the top of my head, but some percentage of Google's ad revenues come from YouTube. Right? YouTube is primarily an ad-driven business.
Well, and there's a strong argument that YouTube is at a monopoly as well. It is virtually impossible to be meaningful in video without being on YouTube.
YouTube is the Kleenex of online video, right? It's it's the only place, unless you're Microsoft, I guess. Because
I'm just not. I mean, it's sooner or later the right lawyer, the Brad Smith of Google's going to show up and make a deal.
Yeah, that guy. I should know his name. Kent Walker is not that guy. Let me tell you, he's still in the belligerent, we're going to fight everything phase of his career.
Yeah.
Do you think the DOJ is threatening the breakup because what they really want them to do is open the search?
Yep. Yeah, because the real outcome here could be very similar to what happened with Microsoft, where you get a settlement, and doesn't mean it's ideal. It doesn't mean everyone gets what they want. But if the goal here is to prevent those behaviors from continuing that was harming competition and hurting innovation and harming consumers ultimately, there's a version of the end of the story that is Google remains whole and emerges a better. They can have a monopoly, right? It's okay.
Yeah. Well, and here's a distinct difference. When Microsoft in the consent decree basically opened up the source code of Windows to the competitors that were complaining. Mm-hmm. They did not find any if real networks code. Like there was not.
I know that's the.
In fact, there was opposite of that. There was
if
code
NSA,
to make badly built software run well.
Right.
The problem if you open up search and actually expose exactly how the algorithm works is then the algorithm is destroyed because now everybody games the algorithm.
Well, Google does too, right? Google already does. That's the problem. So
well, and there's a real question is like if you reveal this, then see that Google is deliberately prioritizing their own things.
What if maybe they say, well, don't open it to the public, but open it in such a way that DuckDuckGo and other
interested parties. Yeah.
And also, we get lost in this thing. Part of the argument, part of the thing people need to understand is, it doesn't mean they give it away for free. Right?
No, not at all.
One of the things that I think will be decided in these various regulatory or antitrust cases around mobile app stores is what is reasonable to charge as a fee for whatever it might be, an in-app payment, an app, whatever. Yeah. And this ties to this as well because Google has created this IP, I guess. They have this thing that they own that is worth something. I could imagine many companies wanting to go to them and say, hey, I'd like to start a search service that's what you do without your hand picking of things. It's just going to be the algorithm. I think we'd all like to see what that looked like. I mean, in some ways, right? What would a pure version of Google search look like? I mean, might be pretty good.
You said before the show that you wanted to hear what Jeff Jarvis had to say. Of course,
yes.
This is probably topic one. Right after
this is it. I'm just curious because I have my own history with the Microsoft thing. I have my own opinions as everyone
Well, that's
does.
why you have a real standing here because you've seen it happen once before.
But the Microsoft one, the Microsoft case has an asterisk because they were going to be broken up. It was judicial misbehavior that prevented that from happening, and they settled. And people look back on it now and they're like, "Oh, Microsoft basically won that case." Like, no, they did not.
They had lost.
They lost.
And there was enough dirt that it was going to get tangled up in an appeal for decades.
Oh, and
so let's make a deal.
The facts of that case
that was because the judge did something wrong.
Yeah, he talked to reporters during the case and badmouthed Microsoft. You're not actually allowed to do that.
But it still took 2 years, right?
Yep.
Like this stuff doesn't happen fast.
Well, no, but the point I was trying to make was they threw out his remedy. They did not throw out his ruling. Everything that he found that Microsoft was guilty of, they are still guilty of. That is still a legal record of fact. It's not. It was not taken away. So part of the settlement was you actually have to address that. So Microsoft had the opportunity. I mean, they could have tried to settle. They were very belligerent at the time, but Microsoft had the opportunity ahead of time to have more of a say on this. If Google, so far they have not. I mentioned Kent Walker, the utterances of this guy, his position on all of these antitrust things, the DMA in Europe, et cetera, is all very Microsoft 1999. He's not learned this lesson, but
pugnacious. Yeah.
But Google could do what Microsoft didn't and settle by having talks with the DOJ in the States and saying, look, we get it. What will this do it? Will this do it? That sort of thing. Google, the judge in Epic v. Google practically begged them and then forced them to have settlement talks, which went nowhere because of Google. And so they're still in that place where they're like, well, we feel like, we built this thing, it's ours, you can't take it away from us. And it's like, yeah, actually they can. So you might want to start thinking about that and maybe changing your behavior a little bit. So I do think there's that's why I want to talk to Jeff. My history of this, whatever is whatever, but in some ways, I think there's an opportunity here for Google to kind of do the right thing and emerge in better shape than they might otherwise. And it would benefit anyone out in the world who uses any of their products and services.
Yeah. I don't think it's a good thing, frankly, if you destroy Google because...
I mean, I don't think anyone's talking about destroying Google, but, if they're so belligerent that they're not, they're still talking, like we haven't done anything wrong. They keep saying this. So you have to unbind those things that allow them to enact that behavior.
Right.
So you're going to split up parts of it unless they can settle. They still have a chance.
Stick around. You could join us on Windows Weekly. I mean, this week in Google.
And I should say too, there's a legal process too. So aside from settling, I think they're not. I'm sure they're not even thinking of settling right now. They're going to let the legal process play out, the appeal process, see if they can get anything overturned, and that would be the best outcome.
Years out, right? I mean,
potentially, yeah.
Part of the problem with this is, and it was certainly a problem with Microsoft, is sometimes the violating behavior is no longer important in 5 years, right? I think in this case it will be because Google's dominance of the ad market is clearly problematic.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You want to do the DMA story?
Oh, sorry. There was a knock at the door, and I thought my wife was picking up a dog, but it's a package. Okay.
Are you getting a new dog?
No. There's a dog downstairs. I thought it was
if you're in Mexico, it should be a Chihuahua.
If we left our door open, the dog would just come in here and sit with me on the couch. The DMA story. Yeah. So last week we talked about how Germany wants to apply the DMA regulations to all of Microsoft, right? Not just the parts of Microsoft that fall under the DMA, which Windows, obviously, and LinkedIn. What? So it's kind of weird. You would think maybe Office would be in there. You could imagine things that might be there. There is I don't know what to call this, a cadre, a group of companies that most of whom I've never heard of personally that have petitioned the EU to rethink its decision not to put Edge under the regulatory control of the DMA.
Is Sleipnir in this list anywhere?
It's I think they're from Asia. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
No, I think they're Scandinavian.
Oh, are they? Oh, then okay. So the companies. I should have. Where's this? It's Vivaldi, which we have heard of.
Okay.
It's where is this thing? Where is it?
Water
Fox,
Fox
which
and
is a
Wave
Firefox.
Box. Or is it Wave Fox and Water Box? I don't know.
Yeah. And then some industry group, based around a letter to the EU that Opera had written earlier, but they're not in this list of companies. The theory here is actually pretty strong, right? Edge has some small amount of market share compared to Google Chrome. We all know that. It's I think worldwide it might be somewhere around 11% right now. But Microsoft uses Edge as one of its levers in Windows to direct your behavior, and Windows does fall under this DMA. And so if you as a user or you as a company have chosen to standardize on, let's say, Chrome as your web browser, there are certain activities that occur in Windows that always happen in Edge, whether you want them to or not. And, as someone who's been complaining about this for years and years, I have to say, I don't know who Sleipnir is or whatever these other companies are, but...
it's funny. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
And we're both right. Because the reason I thought it was a Scandinavian company is because Sleipnir is, Odin's eight-legged horse.
Yes.
And the company that created it is called Fenrir, which is also Norse mythology.
Yeah.
But it was originally created in Japanese.
That's
so...
I had in my head it was something Asian.
It was created by Yasuyuki Kashigawa, or Kashiwagi, I'm sorry.
Well, like Wavebox, I looked these companies up when I read that. I already knew about WaterFox is a Firefox derivative, right?
Yeah.
Wavebox, I'm like, what the Wavebox? There are third-party browsers that to most normal people would be kind of bizarre that I know a lot about, like Arc or whatever, or Brave, and they're not. I mean, these are all European companies, so
right.
I don't know, but I actually think I think they're correct. I think this is the right thing to do, and because Edge is, as Microsoft will tell you, deeply integrated with Windows, they do use it as a way to direct you to other Microsoft services, primarily online services, including advertising, which is what a monopolist does by tying their dominant product to the thing they want to get better. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's the same strategy that they employed with IE back in 1990, whatever that was, 5, I guess. So, yeah, I think that should happen. I wish it was coming from someone I had heard of, but it's okay.
Like Sleipnir.
Well, like Opera, although Opera, like I said, they did kick it off. So
yeah, and Vivaldi's in there probably. Yeah, so that's all right.
They are in there. Yeah.
We've heard of them. Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a break now. And then I guess there's still AI to talk about, developer stuff, Microsoft 365, and of course the world famous it's a bouillabaisse
it's a technical bouillabaisse
stuff. All coming up, plus
and the number one whiskey in the world.
What could that be?
Now I have to look.
Don't look. No looking. No cheating.
I gotta look. I don't care how the story ends. I just want to know now.
All right. While Paul is cheating, we will get back with Windows Weekly, Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell in just a second. But the show today, this portion of the show brought to you by Melissa, the data quality expert since 1985. They've been doing this longer than I have. Whether you need the full white glove service or just the nuts and bolts, Melissa is the best for your enterprise at keeping your data clean. Bing. I feel like there should be a little bing. Your data is clean. Melissa now offers transparent pricing for all its services. That's nice because you don't have to guess when you're estimating your business budget. 10,000 businesses worldwide have benefited from Melissa's industry-leading solutions. See, here's the thing. You've got address data, supplier data. You've got all that information about your customers, but it is decaying. It is withering right before your very eyes. Phone numbers change, emails change. Maybe numbers in the address are transposed. Clean data is crucial to business operations. Melissa makes it easy for you to cleanse and standardize your data within the popular platforms you're already using. This helps improve ROI, optimize business efficiency, and elevates the customer experience because nobody wants to be called by the wrong name or get their products delivered to the wrong address. Melissa integrates, as I said, right into the apps you use. Microsoft 365, yes. Google Sheets, check. Dynamics 365, check. Esri, Stripe, Shopify, check. See, the nice thing is you're in those apps or you've got your card or whatever, and Melissa's automatically keeping the data clean. So even on data entry, it's going to be cleaned up. You're going to improve address data quality to save money, to keep customers happy. You're going to improve payment processing and deliverability with clean, standardized data. You're going to keep customer records accurate with out-of-the-box data cleansing tools. G2 continues to recognize Melissa as a leader in data quality and address verification. They got that for summer 2024. And let me reassure you, because I know everybody worries about data and security and privacy, Melissa's committed to the security and privacy of all client data in their care through responsible use. I mean, they have a 38-year history of establishing and refining their controls to secure data. They are compliant with all the current standards, SOC 2, HIPAA, HITRUST, GDPR. Get started today with 1,000 records clean for free. You'll like what Melissa can do. Go to melissa.com/twit. We thank Melissa so much for supporting Windows Weekly, and we thank you for supporting Windows Weekly by using that address, melissa.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa, for supporting the good works that Paul and Richard are doing for all of us today.
Wow.
Heavy.
You make me sound so altruistic.
You kind of are.
I mean, this is a money grab, Leo. I don't know if
you're only in it for the money. Oh,
I'm here for the bucks.
Okay, never mind. Forget I said anything. Let's talk Microsoft. Can I ask a question from the chat room? I thought this was a really interesting question. Mm-hmm. Jamie Lee Curtis asked it too, which kind of made me want to
I was
really
hoping she was in the chat room, but go on.
She's on X. Here,
She's in a closet hiding from the.
I'll pop it up for you. Totally random. Always want to know from Richard and Paul who they rank as their top 3 CEOs of Microsoft.
I've only been 3 CEOs.
There's only been 3.
That was a trick question.
All 3 of them. Ballmer, Gates, and Nadella. Yeah,
I think we can all agree they were terrible in their own ways. And I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Jamie Lee.
Yeah,
you know what? She's just here to promote Halloween 18. It's not. Don't worry about it. Forget.
No, where did the Jamie Lee Curtis thing come from?
That's the name of the Twitter account. But as you know, on Twitter, anything.
Ballmer's by far the most fun.
He's the most fun. Nadella, I think, is easily. Well, do you think Nadella's better than Gates?
Okay, every one of them is fascinating in their own way because Gates obviously founded the company and the race to success
and took it from nothing to everything.
Yep. So he'll always have that. He has some problematic aspects, but okay. We were just talking about antitrust. Antitrust was when he lost interest in being the CEO of Microsoft. So he became chief science officer, and .NET happened, and whatever. History is history.
He was chief architect. Yeah.
Chief architect, software architect. Sorry, and Steve Ballmer is an accountant. So we have this period of time where Microsoft
bean
is
counter
is not led by an engineer, which is weird, right? For a company like
Microsoft. Which was a problem. It definitely, you point to the issues with Ballmer, it was that he wasn't an engineer. But Ballmer's blessing is that he kept the company together. He got that deal done.
He, Tim Cook, not an engineer, kind of similar. He's done okay.
He's an operations guy, though, and these days that's a very important part of because Apple's a products company, right?
It's become a strength for Apple.
I think as history gets written and rewritten, I think Steve Ballmer will be looked on kindly because he was the one who really jump-started the Microsoft we know today with the cloud focus and that kind of thing. So,
and then knew he was an impediment to it and got out of the way.
And he got out of the way. Satya Nadella, I told this story last week, but I met him once, and I might have told this on the show too. Ward Ralston introduced me to him as part of the server team a million years ago, and I shook his hand and said, "Oh, good, fresh meat."
Nice.
It's weird that we've never spoken since.
That's when he took over from Muglia, right? When he took over as president server and Jones.
It just, not a lot of
journalists.
I still have a job. Anyway, But he's interesting because he was not interesting. He was kind of this cold, robotic, whatever. But the company blew through the roof.
He only was when he went to CEO school. Like when he was the Bing guy, he was pretty great. Like but when he became CEO, remember he had a really tough first year, and they sent him to finishing school, and he became very stiff for a couple of years.
There's a lot of people. I mean,
script.
Terry Myerson was like this. It's hard. It's hard to get.
So hard.
It's this is a weird set of skills to have.
Well, to take that much feedback with that much research behind it and try and get all of that language right, it's not normal.
Yeah. No, like, he does it. He's an engineer.
I don't know that Nadella has spoken normally since.
Right. I used to joke that you could take one of his speeches and use the summarized feature in Word and you'd come up with 0 words. There would be nothing there, right? But the thing is, he did this when he came in, and he's done this now since, where there's a behind the scenes part of Nadella that's not super public yet, where this guy's kind of an assassin, actually.
The lynching of Stephen Elop sent ripples through the whole company.
Well, just the whole Office Space scene where he brings in each team and says, what do you do here exactly? Yeah. And, the idea being that they had to justify themselves as a business that could be profitable. They didn't have to be right, but they had some plan for that. They didn't have to be subsidized by Windows or whatever else was keeping the company afloat at the time. And they had to make sense within the strategy that was happening under him, which was this cloud computing push. And he's done it again with AI. And we've actually seen some of that where he basically said, look, you don't have to do this, but you'll be gone if you don't do this. Yeah. And he's turned into, this is slow and steady wins the race. And then AI happened, and he was like, almost too chaotic.
And the argument, the way I've heard it described, is he spent the past few years getting the company honed for the moment he wrote that letter.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's...
He was looking for a thing, and when the thing appeared, he moved the whole company.
It happened so abruptly.
Because it's not that he didn't make the thing, he found the thing.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of Microsoft leaders would naturally not necessarily go toward that thing, right? They want to be the inventors of the thing or whatever. Yeah. So I think it was good on him. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's too early to rate him against the other two, but
Okay, let's talk about AI again next year and see where we still don't have product. Like how's it looking? How's that 20 billion looking now?
Yeah, this is right. This, I've joked about this licensable moment thing. I mean, I think the thing Microsoft has done the most differently, other than just the speed, is trying to monetize it so quickly. Yeah, and it's like, guys, it's not ready. You're trying to get customers to spend money. It would be like me spending money on a Game Pass subscription and not getting Activision games. That's crazy. It would never happen.
It's not a thing.
So that's stupid. I don't even know why I said that. Anyway, we'll see. Yeah, you're right. We'll see. I think it's going to be very interesting.
Monetization is not optional. There's no argument that works in the boardroom that doesn't involve revenue, right? So you've got to put a price out there and see who signs.
I just mean monetize it immediately.
Yeah.
They went from, they announced the Microsoft 365 Copilot in March, if I'm not mistaken, and productized it in October. I mean, there wasn't a lot there, and there's not a lot there now. But
to that point, you actually have a really interesting article on Thurrott.com in the premium section about Nadella and AI. And
but yes.
But the commoditization of AI, which is very
this blows my mind. I missed this. Here's the thing. So over the past 30 days, Microsoft has had 2 major announcements about what they think are called Wave 2 of Copilot, right? There was the commercial version, Microsoft 365 Copilot, followed by, I think 10 days later, the consumer version. Okay. I paid more attention to the consumer version, frankly, but it came up just the other day. Someone referenced Satya Nadella referring to the actual LLMs that power all of their AI as a commodity. And I said, I have to find this. And this is bizarre. But on the day that Microsoft made their Wave 2 announcement for commercial, which I paid less attention to, Satya Nadella posted on LinkedIn, like one does. I'm gonna read the quote, but I'm also gonna pause because I have to break this down. This is what I used to do with Steven Sinofsky. You have to think about what he's saying. As AI becomes more capable and agentic, now pause, agentic. In other words, agent-based.
Inventing that word, yeah.
Agentic, hilarious. Okay, what does that mean? So, and we touched on this, I think, last week. A Copilot is this thing that helps you do a thing, right? You know that. It's beside you. An agent is different because it goes off and works on your behalf in the background, doing things for you.
You
not
give it a
proactively,
mission.
you've programmed it, but it's not working with you. It's going to come back at some point and say, hey, I found something. So agentic. So we're moving into this agents, what we used to call background services,
really about.
Is part of the wave 2, right? Okay.
Yeah.
As that happens, models themselves, these are the LLMs, right, become more of a commodity. Burp, pause right there. All right. Microsoft has models, of course, but the foundation of this AI push thus far has been OpenAI's models, the ChatGPT models, right? He just said that our biggest partner, well, one of our biggest partners, this thing we've invested, what is it, $11, $13 billion in?
13.
Has had slightly a rough, weird year with, dramatic comings and goings of people, lots of weird churn. It triggered them starting their own Microsoft AI business with Suleiman and the people from Inflection, et cetera, et cetera. If you're at OpenAI, if you're Sam Altman and you read this, which you would have, or someone would have certainly put it in front of you, that is almost a declaration of war.
It's a shot across the bow.
Right? What you're saying is this company that triggered Microsoft becoming a completely different company, the thing we just talked about, is now a commodity. It's not even 2 years in.
Yeah, part of this is the fact that the OpenAI interface works across multiple models, including ones not made by OpenAI. Like you can plug Llama in through the same interface.
But I also think
if you spend time in that AI studio, there's like 1,000 models in there.
All right, let me
It's called any of them.
You're right, so the other thing that's happening concurrently to this is Microsoft's not the only one that reacted to ChatGPT-4. Google has been doing this all along. I think Google, I think, is going to be the turtle that wins this race eventually. But whatever. Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Apple now, Amazon, right, and then a 100 small, second-tier companies we don't need to name, are all racing to get this stuff, to be on par or better than the others. We've very quickly reached the point where we have alternatives in an LLM market that 2 years ago was so impossible to even play in because of the expense of building out the infrastructure and the size of the data that one would need to deliver something that made any sense whatsoever. That's how fast this market has moved, right? That Microsoft, not this second, but he is saying they are and will do it, could just flip a switch and move over to something that's better anytime they want to or anytime they can, right? Yeah. This is, like I said, declaration of war. Because commodity. So he continues. All value gets created by how you, and here he means Microsoft, but how you, Microsoft, steer, ground, and fine-tune those models with your business data and workflow. So actually there he's speaking, I'm sorry, it was business customers, who, by the way, are not allowing their business data to go anywhere near this AI, which is the same response. But when one steers, grounds, and fine-tunes models, that's what Microsoft's doing, right? That's Microsoft as the intermediary, right?
Yeah, Microsoft arguably has been in the business of tooling since day one.
There you go. Yeah,
you don't make the language; you make the dev tool for the language.
That's right. So we are we may use this thing on the back end, but you don't have to actually worry what we're using on the back end because we're going to use the best thing we can. It might not be the same thing in 6 months or a year. But what you will know as our customer is that the thing you're doing will always be the best it can be because we are steering, grounding, and fine-tuning these models ourselves, right? And then it says how they compose with the UI layer of human to AI to human interaction. So this is the Copilot agent, whatever it is, UI, the interaction that one would have as a user, I guess, with the AI, which is, we don't really talk about clicking on buttons in a window or something. That's really what he's talking about here. It's like the way that this thing works. And a lot of this stuff is going to be back-end services. Good morning, here's your daily summary, here's your email summary, here's your meeting summary. It's going to be that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, but we are not even 2 years into this. And he has just declared that this thing that is the most crazy computer advance possibly in history is a commodity. It's table stakes. It's what everyone has.
And it's great positioning for undermining the value of the engine versus
Yes.
the value of the interface.
Yep. I find this incredible, and I missed it when he first said this. I didn't even know what happened. This is
But it
probably
also
too
makes
early.
and it also makes sense from a point of view of if the tooling part was easy, OpenAI would be leading,
right.
right? Where they stumble is on all the tooling problems.
This has come up so many times on this podcast, but we live in this era where we could wake up any day and something insane has happened. And in AI, I mean, we live in a world where something insane could happen anywhere. I know that,
Yeah.
but in AI, we saw the Google. If you saw it, so Google has a notebook LLM tool that will take any content and then turn it into a realistic sounding podcast with two people bantering together.
It sounds exactly like this show, actually.
It's incredible. I took it. It has all the little, like, they speak over each other a little bit. They laugh at jokes. They do whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I need some, I'm just like, OpenAI or Microsoft. I need a lot of data. So I found a Steven Sinofsky blog post from 2012. It's 8,000 words. And I threw it into this thing and I created I didn't do anything. I created a little video where I stole the content it created and I published it. And it is two people, it's two AIs that sound like people and it sounds real and they're talking normally. The one thing you'll notice up top of this thing is that they refer, it's about Windows on ARM, the initial push. And so they refer to that as ARM instead of ARM, so they keep saying ARM. And that's, but it's actually not at the top of it. So if it's somewhere in my forums, I've published it, but you can also find it on our website. So our YouTube site. So if you go to youtube.com/ @throtcom, you'll see it. It's somewhere near the top, but it is incredible. Like, it's incredible. So that's Google. A couple of months ago, it was OpenAI coming out with that natural sounding voice thing and the conversational bit. And, Microsoft has they're doing the same thing. I mean, they're doing the same things. And talk about commodity. One of the things I brought up probably last week or 2 weeks ago is this notion of I was paying for Copilot Pro because of the image stuff mostly. And that's actually free now,
Yeah.
to the quality and style that I wanted.
I've talked about this a few times. It is a commodity in the sense that
It's crazy.
the foundational papers for AI.
Yes.
There's only a handful of them, and they're open. They're well known. In fact, one of the authors, Jeffrey Hinton, just got the Nobel
Interesting.
Prize.
Okay. So there's
physics,
a book out now
which is
called
interesting.
For which?
Physics.
And then for chemistry, another AI guy.
Was it medicine for DeepMind?
Was it medicine for Demis Hassabis? Yeah, medicine.
Yeah, because the DeepMind AlphaFold has transformed protein
AlphaFold.
folding
That's what
houses.
they're talking about, is protein folding.
They entered the competition like 6 years ago. It's every 2 years.
Yeah.
And the first year was one team using it, and they outdid everybody by a mile. The second year, there was like 6 teams using it. Now everybody uses it.
That's
Because
kind
it's
of amazing. But the point, but that really underlines what you're saying. It is a commodity. Nobody really has an advantage here. These things have been invented, and now we're all using them.
If you're freaking out, or actually you guys both will just want to read this because it's incredible, but if you're freaking out about AI, very instructive. There's a book out called AI Snake Oil that just came out. I want to say
Is it, though? Is it snake oil? Is it?
Some of it
No.
is.
Don't
Some
worry
of
about
it
the
is.
title. I mean, I'm just saying the content of the book, you're going to want to read this because it explains every question anyone has about AI is explained in this book, and it's really,
good. I
really
need
well
it.
done.
Yeah.
It's really, really well
AI
done.
is one of those technologies. We can all discuss 3-nanometer processes and and how an operating system works, but when it gets to AI, nobody really knows how this stuff works.
Well,
Arthur C. Clarke was or is it Asimov who said, if it's
Clarke.
it's magic, right?
Yeah.
And,
Clarke.
and AI, look, a lot of it's stupid, but you do have those moments, right? Where the OpenAI mini demo of the automatically created videos from a prompt, where that's magic. You see that, and you're like, oh my God. And yes, you'll see like, oh, look, there's a little mistake here, whatever it is. But still, there are way more of those moments now than there were with like the internet or whatever. It's
I would
amazing.
argue that the problem we have with AI is all the science fiction that's distorted our minds up.
Yeah.
You project
Exactly.
You put that problems to project into it anyway.
Nailed
then
it.
you throw in 60 years of movie making.
But that's what we really think of it as.
Yeah.
So they have a whole, it looks like a medium page based on the AI snake oil book.
I just ordered it for the Kindle.
Yeah.
It's you'll love it. And it's not
Just
so
came
much
out
about
September 24th.
It's not like an opinion piece. It's just where did this stuff come from? And they go back and they find a lot of this technology dates back almost 40 years.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
It's.
I mean, that's what Hinton won a Nobel Prize for is neural networks. I mean, this stuff's been around
his
forever.
paper on back propagation is from 1986.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right? Like it's old. It just couldn't be done with the hardware at the time. And it was his students, including Suskevar, that implemented it in 2012 for the ImageNet competition and blew the whole thing up.
So one of the big breakthroughs came from Google DeepMind, and it might have just been Google at the time, whatever it was, but it was just a brute force like approach to solving this problem. So they had this AI breakthrough, and they were like, well, we can't, this is not viable as a product. It's like, we threw every resource we had at it, and it added 1 and 1, but it provided the information that all the people that came out of that and then went to these other companies used as the basis for their later contributions or whatever.
Oh, good news. Somebody who's listening to the show earlier said, I miss those Audible recommendations you guys used
there you
to
go.
do. Audible no longer is advertising, but AI snake oil is available at Audible.
As an Audible.
Yeah. 9 hours. See, I wish I could read books, but
I know.
I go to sleep.
I find it hard to I have the time. I find it hard just to have the time.
I would argue I cannot listen for 9 hours. I will read that book faster than that.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's a lot faster to read.
Because my opportunity, like maybe I'm going for a walk, going to the gym, shaving and stuff. But it competes with podcasts and music actually, and it just gets lost in the mix. Whereas I dedicate time to reading every single day, so I
have so many books I want to read. I couldn't finish all the books I want to read if I listened 24 hours.
It's all about airplanes for me, right?
You're lucky.
Fly 400 hours a year, you can get through a lot of books.
That's a lot of books.
It's good. It's a good way to
I will read this. That sounds.
I think you're both going to love it.
AI snake oil.
I don't want it to. It's not an opinion piece. It's an examination of how it all came together.
What artificial intelligence can do, what it can't, how to tell the difference. Published by Princeton University Press. Arvind Narayan and Sayesh Kapoor are the authors.
They're not Joe Rogan types. They're they're not just asking questions.
Yeah, I'm just asking. I'm just asking questions. Interesting.
Yeah.
Where are we now? I'm all lost.
All right. So yesterday, we go from the Dark Sasha story to OneDrive. Which. They had this big event yesterday, OneDrive, Wave, whatever, who cares? They're using AI, of course.
They had an event I didn't even know about.
I know. I knew it. I couldn't see it. They screwed up the live stream. Really? It was unbelievable. Yeah. So there's commercial and consumer stuff. Obviously, a lot of the Microsoft 365 Copilot stuff. OneDrive is the obvious place for that. But for consumers, the big thing is fixing search, fixing the mobile client, by the way, to be what it should have always been, which is just for your photos, right? Back up your photos, do stuff with your photos. Smart. So that's good. They're adding colored folders in File Explorer, so that's fine.
Pretty.
No word yet on it if they're going to get rid of the enshrification of auto-forcing folder backup on you yet, but maybe we can dream.
Hey, OneDrive is your gateway to seamlessly managing files, photos, and memories across Wacom and everywhere in between, don't you know?
Yeah, it's a gateway, all right.
It's a gateway.
You want to talk about fussing? Talk about how many apps on my new Pixel 9 complain that I haven't turned on notifications for them.
Oh, isn't that annoying?
It's crazy.
They shouldn't be allowed to even ask.
Yeah, when you buy a new phone like you just did, do you do a clean install or do you actually recover?
I do the migrate.
You do?
Yeah.
That's what most people do. I always do. I almost always do a clean install. And then I spend 2 months dealing with what you just described of some kind.
You still have to deal with it. You still have to log into each app, and none of your settings have carried across for each app. So you're still adjusting all of that.
Yep. This is the
only thing I can say is that the authenticators move across, except for if you're using the Google Authenticator, all your Google apps are broken, and if you're using the Microsoft Authenticator, all the Microsoft apps are broken. But everything else is fine.
The Google Authenticator is nice because it syncs. But the Microsoft Authenticator you have to have for your Microsoft stuff. It's just you have to have it.
Yeah, but
it does
you have
back
to
up restore.
individually go through each Microsoft product. Has to be reset.
I'm at account.microsoft.com for 2 hours going through it's
Is that true on iPhone as well, or?
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah,
but I will say, if you're an Apple guy, because this has been the year Paul apologizes for Apple, apparently. There's something about Apple, because Apple does iCloud, and then Apple, which, just these other companies.
Well, they also have a centralized notification.
Well, but they also have because of the way they do apps. Other companies that are Apple, Apple followers kind of do the same thing. So if you're an Apple guy, you could install an app and have all your stuff just be there automatically. Like that's more common. I feel like this should be a standard that regardless of the platform, desktop or mobile, that you should be able to do what Richard described. It's a problem. Like I can automate my app installs on new laptops, which I do with WinGet, which is awesome, when I kiss the configuration of those apps. And I actually have some folders of configurations that I literally copy over. I have scripts I write that copy them to where that app is after it's installed, because I hate going through the process of manually configuring them. You still have to sign in. You still have, it's a pain. This is a problem that I feel is solvable, but has never been solved. Anyway, OneDrive is not solving that problem. But
thank you very much.
But they're adding new storage tiers, so you can buy 5 terabyte or 10 terabyte storage tiers. So,
okay.
Yeah.
If you have 10 terabytes of stuff, you have too much stuff.
You have a problem, you should be on a TV show on the Bravo station where people go through your digital files.
Digital hoarders. That would be a fun show. You guys should host that. It would be so much fun.
Well, I mean, it's just, what you don't get is this snake coming out from the bottom of the pile or whatever.
No, but I can see
the mushrooms
saying,
that are growing.
What? Throw that out. Get rid of that. What is that? What are you doing there?
Why do you have a scanned, Circuit City ad from 1999 or whatever? Yeah,
very funny.
Oh boy. Yeah.
All right.
Anyway. Okay. So that's happened or is happening. .NET 9 release candidate 2 right on schedule. No new features. So. For me, WPF, that's not getting fixed. I kind of knew that, but I hold out hope. Every milestone, maybe, no. So they did the thing they did in May, and that was the end of that. So fine, I don't care. You care, I don't care. And then just randomly, because that's what this section is, Microsoft issued the last software update for its Surface Duo dual screen Android device today.
Oh, it's so sad. We hardly knew ye. Surface Duo. That was the phone that opened like
it wasn't a phone, Leo. They were very clear about that.
Maybe that was the problem.
It was obviously a phone, but
maybe they should have admitted it was a phone.
They released exactly one Android version
That's
upgrade.
Shameful.
I know. They just did wrong by people.
4 years? 5 years?
This is 3 years from Surface Duo 2, which is what I'm talking about. Sorry. It's 4 years since Surface Duo 1. Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry. 4 years. 4 or 5 years. I don't remember. Somewhere in there.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. Yeah. So it's Surface Duo 2. Both of these versions are on Android 12L. I know. They're 3 years old. Guys, come on.
They did not care about this non-phone.
It was an orphan.
Which is too bad because it was real.
It was kind of fun.
Cool.
It was obviously
really
a stepping stone to a folding screen device. I just knew it was a mistake. I think there was, and maybe still is, a place in the world for Surface branded devices that run Android. I could imagine a Surface Pro alike, or a Surface Pro, I guess they call it, that ran Android. I could see this, right?
And
they I don't know, running Microsoft 365 apps and services, right? Why not? But
why not?
I don't know. They don't do it. So here we are.
Such an
and you are not even talking about the Duo. You're talking about the Duo 2.
Duo 2, right. Sorry about that. Remember this launch, it was $1,500 when it was new. And what man would have you know?
Both Mary Jo and I bought the first one. I returned it.
That was a weird one for her because I was like, Mary, I'm like, what are you doing? I have to see it.
No,
she doesn't usually do stuff like that.
I really liked it. I can't remember if I got the 2 and then turned that back in too. I think I might have.
Right.
I really kept hope alive.
I think even by the first one, probably they had, Samsung had their folding devices. They started with the big, the tall one, and I know there were problems in the beginning, but they were clearly going to be solved. And a 2-screen device today doesn't make a lot of sense unless you have like a folding thing inside, then one on the outside, which is what the Fold.
That's the Pixel Fold.
Yeah, the Pixel Fold does that as well. Yeah. Yep.
And the Samsung. Oh, they all do. They all do.
Yeah, they all do. It's a good. It's a whatever. It's a
Makes sense.
seems like a good
Screens
idea.
everywhere.
All right, let's pause. Xbox coming up. The best number one selling whiskey in the world.
Number one selling. Number one rate.
Not the best, just the number one selling
Best is a funny concept.
whiskey in the world. Coming up, Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. You're watching Windows Weekly. The show brought to you today by 1Password. We talked about a company for a long time called Collide. And 1Password acquired them. And now they've put the two together. They've made this incredible peanut butter and jelly sandwich they call 1Password Extended Access Management. Let me ask you a rhetorical question, because I know the answer. Do your end users always work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? They never bring in their own devices, do they? Of course they do. Right. They don't. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and on those unmanaged BYOD devices? 1Password has an answer to that question: Extended Access Management. Brand new, and it's really cool. 1Password Extended Access Management helps to secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM cannot touch. If you think of your company's security like the quad of a college campus, there are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are the company-owned devices, the IT-approved apps, the managed employee identities. And then, of course, there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that actually are the straightest line from point A to point B. Those are the unmanaged devices, the shadow IT apps, the non-employee identities like contractors on your network. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but really, in the real world, a lot of security problems happen on the shortcuts, and the shortcuts will get worn into those paths. That's why you need 1Password Extended Access Management. It's the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices and apps and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected. Every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. It's real security for the way we work today. Now generally available to companies that use Okta or Microsoft Entra, and they have a beta for Google Workspace customers. It really works. Check it out at onepassword.com/Windows Weekly. That's the number 1, PASSWORD.com/Windows Weekly. Great idea from 1Password. I think you're going to be interested, and we thank you so much for supporting Windows Weekly by going to onepassword.com/Windows Weekly. Back to the show, and now we give Paul Thurrott the stage because it's time for the long-awaited, much-loved Xbox segment.
I
Xbox D.
have shocking.
Oh,
news.
wait a minute. He's got it.
Yeah.
The backwards
It's the
Halo.
Halo, but not Halo. I don't have anything bad to
This
say
is so awesome.
about Xbox this week.
I'm delighted.
And I even have 2 Xbox-related back of the book entries.
What?
For Tip and both for Tip. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Is this a live performance of the Halo stuff?
Yes. It's a small audience, but enthusiastic.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the Halo audience.
Yeah.
So there were rumors of this a couple of years ago, and then a couple of years before that, but Microsoft revealed in a very convoluted way that they are shifting Halo to the Unreal Engine 5. They were using their own in-house rendering engine previous to this. This was a huge problem because they had to maintain it, keep it up to date, support it, make sure it had all the features all the big guys had, and then they would hire people, and no one knew how to use it, so they'd have to spend time and money, training those people on the engine.
Yeah, don't build your own engine. It's a mistake.
Yep. And okay, they showed to do a proof of concept. They created a project. It's not a game. It's not going to turn into a game, but they basically just recreated Halo worlds and environments, I should say, and characters and vehicles and things. And damn, it looks good. And this has come up a bunch, but Leo and I live covered an event where they announced Halo Infinite, the current game, and it looked like an 8-bit Super NES port. It was like the saddest looking. And I thought what they were going to do was that thing at the beginning of the Wizard of Oz where it's in black and white and then it turns into glorious color.
Yeah, black and white to color.
And I thought it was going to go into glorious 4K. And then then it ended. And I said, couldn't the original, id engine from Quake do this? Like, what is happening here? So it got better. They delayed it a year and whatever, but they then spent the next year and a half kind of dripping out the features that all were supposed to ship in the beginning. But this thing, you got to look at this video. It's awesome. Like,
Unreal Engine is, let's face it, really
unbelievably
the
gorgeous.
best.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Now,
shall I? Let me play a little bit.
Play a little bit. Go back. You have to dive into it to find the scenes from the environments and stuff. But I'll say while you're looking for that, as part of this, obviously with Halo, it's sort of like Star Wars. We have these different eras, and we have the Bungie era, and we have the 343 era. If we were to take a vote, I think we'd all agree the Bungie era was a little bit better.
So this is a behind the scenes kind of thing. Oh, look at that. This is Unreal Engine.
That's Unreal.
It looks real.
Yeah. I love the light blooms.
Holy moly.
Yep.
So I guess they've got the drawings, the artwork, and then they're showing how they rendered it.
Too,
Wow. This is amazing. Oh, Halo never looks so good.
I know. Now
I want to jump in that.
This is only part of the problem with Halo, right? So
you have to have a good.
But
game,
you want to modernize the engine, or get a modernized engine. In this case, I guess it has to look good for starters. And so this looks good. It looks good.
Yeah.
So
really nice.
They're not ready. It's not coming out anytime soon. But they're working on multiple Halo titles. They are actively hiring, by the way, in sharp contrast to the rest of the video game industry. They've renamed the studio from 343 Industries to Halo Studios.
They should call it 344. That would be fun.
What are you, Steve Jobs? It's what's next.
It's one more. It's one bet.
One more.
This one goes
to me. The problem with Halo wasn't so much how it looked, because Halo, if it looks pretty good, it's fine. It's that it's boring and the same old thing over and over again.
At least it should be pretty. If you're going to be boring, be pretty.
Yeah, I refer to it as a cure for a video game addiction. It certainly worked for me. So it's like the patch, but for video games. So they have to get story right. They have to, we'll see what they do. But they've been on this real monolithic path for a long time, and I think it's fair to say, Halo 4, 5, and now Infinite, not great. So we'll see what they come up with. But looks great.
It'll look good.
It's going to look good.
It'll look good. You know what else looks good? Flight Sim looks good.
Yeah.
That's not Unreal Engine though. That's its own.
That's a good question.
It's a good engine, whatever it is.
Now you're going to have a really serious computer to play this effectively. So they're kind of dribbling out details about this game, which is I think coming out in November, right? End of November. So they're going to have what they're calling a technical alpha, because Microsoft can't name anything for PC. And let me see if I can find the specs on this thing. For this thing to work, you have to literally submit your DXDIAG file. If anyone's not heard of this,
your DirectX settings and diagnostics.
So it's been a while since I've run this. So if you do Windows key R and type in DXDIAG, it's the DirectX diagnostic tool. I guess DXDIAG, I guess, and it scans your system and it tells you how powerful it is, and you can save all the information. You have to send this to them, and they will determine whether or not you can play this game.
We'll be the judge.
You qualify
on PC.
That is hysterical. You need not qualify.
I think they're going to get a lot of no's. Wow. I can tell you that my Snapdragon X, it made a laughing sound when I submitted it. But So we talked about this whenever they first announced this. Some ridiculous number, I think it was a 4000X, some stupid, impossible number, more detailed than the previous game, which by the way, awesome. It still does. And so we'll see. But
And you can get out of your plane and walk around, right?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
It's so
They're
wild.
rendering every individual grain of dirt and sand and rock and blade of grass, and it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. But
Sounds
they're
great.
doing it, so here we go.
Sounds great. I don't actually want to be in the plane. I just want to fly somewhere and get out and walk around.
I want to stand on it when it's flying, like those guys used to do in the
that'd be
30s.
cool.
They'd all
Yeah,
stand on the
wind walker.
biplane and
Yeah, be a wind
do
walker.
the go-go's thing.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got? So that's good news, I guess. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. Red Dead Redemption, which people might remember was one of the great Xbox games 200 years ago. When did that come out? Like 2010, something like that. A long time ago.
It lasted a long time, though. I mean, they had a lot.
Oh no,
of sequels
it's honestly, it's still a great game today.
It's still a great
So
game, yeah.
it's going to.
This is a Red Dead Redemption 2. Right.
Yeah. So they're bringing it to the PC, which is really interesting. I think this might be part of a broader. Well, actually, the next. Actually, I left a story out here. Okay, I'll add this other story. But as part of their, bringing Xbox to more platforms kind of strategy, right? So it's interesting to me that we're looking into. This is Rockstar, not Microsoft, but I mean that. Maybe this is part of a thing. Maybe Microsoft is talking to these guys, saying, "Hey, we have an idea." We
How
just figured
hard
out
is
that
it? I mean, the Xbox is not an Intel
You know what?
processor.
Actually,
right?
it's AMD, so it is. It's like it's.
Oh, it's an x86.
Yeah.
So it
I don't
couldn't
know.
be
Like
that hard.
I see things like, for example, Alien Isolation, which is about to get a sequel finally, right? Is on the iPad. So that's clearly a port of whatever original PC / whatever it was. I don't know. So I mean, I feel like we've gotten to the point where devices are so powerful that this stuff is easier. I guess. I mean, anyway, obviously the PC can handle this. I mean, look at it.
It looks like an Xbox game, really. I mean, it
does.
doesn't.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah. It has that. It's not.
Yeah. But should be able to
It's
handle this,
fun.
no problem. Yeah,
Sure,
it's cool.
And I think it'll be more fun on a PC.
But they're going to support like super widescreen aspect ratios, HDR10. They're going to do all the, the FreeSync stuff, and great. Why not?
Good.
So that's fun. Microsoft. I don't know if this is real or official. And I didn't link to it. I apologize, but it looks like Diablo 4 is going to be the first game ported to the PS5 that will be upscaled and have all the PS5 goodness as well. I guess I missed that somehow, but that happened this week as well. So that's happening. And no, there it is. I'm sorry, it is there. Oh, I had it. I'm sorry, it is in the notes. Yeah. So it's. I thought I skipped it. Sorry. So
this means there is work going on inside of Blizzard.
Yep.
People love the new DLC for Diablo.
It has an awesome name to it. What do you remember the name?
I can't remember the name. No.
I can't either.
But I do. I see people
Vessel of Hatred.
Vessel.
That's what they call it.
Nice.
It's a good name for a
I'd
show.
love a PC like that.
Yeah, I've dated that
Vessel
woman.
of Hatred.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's good. So it's all good stuff. And after
that's a
that, I have
surprisingly
I have
happy
more
Xbox
good
session. I'm
news.
confused.
In fact, I have even better news for
What?
video game fans. After the
coming
break.
up.
After the break.
After the break. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know
I
how
don't
to
get
do
this
a
much
tease,
anymore,
Paul.
Leo. It's usually just, everything stinks.
He knows a throw when he sees one.
Yeah, he's
Going
good
for it.
He's good. All right, yes. Plus, something we've been teasing all show long: the #1 selling whiskey in the world.
Not number one selling. No.
Not #1 selling.
No.
#1 something.
Won the award for the best whiskey in the world.
The best whiskey, not the best selling.
Nope.
Just the best.
That's a crazy accolade. But okay.
Yeah, no, we'll debate the award, but wait till you see the whiskey.
All right. I look forward to that. Coming up, back of the book. You're watching Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. If you like this show, I hope you do. I think you do. If you're still here, you must. Here we are, an hour and a half in. Can I ask a favor? I'd like you to join the club and support this show and all the shows we do. Support the team, the staff, the wonderful people that bring it to you by joining the club. It's only $7 a month. It's nothing. That's nothing. But the benefits are great. You get ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to the Club Twit Discord. Offer not available in Russia and Turkey. But everywhere else, you get access to the Club Twit Discord. You get to see the behind-the-scenes stuff we're going to do, like the Build Your Own PC segment that Richard's going to do coming up sometime later this year. We also have Micah's Crafting Corner coming up this week, Stacy's Book Club next week, or actually next week is coffee. We're going to do another coffee episode with the coffee geek, Mark Prince. This one we're going to cover beans, coffee beans. There is as much going into coffee beans as there is, wine and whiskey. This is a connoisseurs episode coming up. All of this for just $7 a month. All you have to do is go to twit.tv/clubtwit. We would love you to join. And oh, by the way, if you're already a club member and you're seeing this, tell a friend. You get a free month for every person you refer. That's our new referral program. That's fantastic. That means you could be, it could be free. Just tell 12 friends. That's all. And it helps us a lot because it spreads the word. twit.tv/clubtwit. This episode quite literally brought to you by CacheFly. You hear me say it all the time on every show. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. For over 20 years, CacheFly has held the track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery, serving over 5,000 companies in over 80 countries. We're one of them. We've been using CacheFly almost since the beginning. I mean, if it weren't for CacheFly, I don't know if Twit would even exist. We love their lag-free video loading, their hyper-fast downloads, the friction-free site interactions. CacheFly is the only CDN built for throughput. They offer, get this, ultra-low latency video streaming, over 1 million concurrent users with latency of less than 1 second. I don't know how they do that. That's amazing. Lightning-fast gaming delivers downloads faster with zero lag, glitches, or outages. And if you have a website or any site that has images, you'll love mobile content optimization, automatic, simple image optimization that will get it so that your site works on any size screen, loads faster on any size device, and it does it automatically. CacheFly did something really important to us. We weren't sure when we started. Well, we know our bandwidth's really spiky. When Windows Weekly comes out, it's huge on Wednesdays, and then it trickles off the rest of the week. We don't know how much peak bandwidth we need, that kind of thing. They gave us flexible month-to-month billing for as long as we needed. And they'll do this for you too, by the way. It's not just us. They'll do this for you too. And as soon as you figure out what exactly you need, you can get a discount by signing up for a fixed term. The point really is you design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. So, to summarize, CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 158% faster than other major CDNs and allows you to shield your site content in their cloud. We've been doing that for a long time, which means there's no cache misses. You get 100% cache hit ratio. And with CacheFly's elite managed packages, you get the VIP treatment, the best support anywhere. Your dedicated account manager is with you from day one, ensuring a smooth implementation, reliable 24/7 support when you need it. Learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com/twit. That's CacheFly.com/twit. Thank you, CacheFly, for supporting Twit all these years. We really appreciate it. Now, time for the back of the book. Paul Thurrott's tip of the week.
So, technically, I have 3 more Audible picks if you want that.
Okay, we'll take it.
But first, there's a long-awaited sequel to the game Stalker. Stalker 2 is coming out in November. It looks awesome, but they made a documentary about the making of the games because these folks are in Ukraine. And between the pandemic and the Russian invasion and just life, it's been a horrific time for them. And this story is incredible. They actually take the team into the Chernobyl exclusion zone and walk around in there.
Wow.
So I'm super interested in certain things for some reason, but Chernobyl has always fascinated me. There was a documentary I'd watched about Chernobyl maybe 3-4 years ago, and talking about like animal life has flourished, but just the whole post-apocalyptic thing. You walk in the classrooms and the houses, and it's all trees are growing through the floor, all that. So
yeah.
This has all that. It's possibly the best of those types of documentaries. So there's the making of the video game, the history that's occurring, the history that occurred that influenced the first game. I showed my wife the trailer, and she's going to watch it with me again. So I think it's something that might be of interest to non-gamers as well. But it's
so what
awesome.
era is this? Is a long time ago.
Well, so the original game is from, I want to say 15 years ago-ish, 2007, something like that.
So it looks like pretty old.
Yeah,
Well,
but when
there's
you
an
look at the
LCD.
new game, it's just like that Halo thing. It's just modern and gorgeous.
Neat.
It's crazy. It looks awesome. But aside from the game, which is probably going to be great, I'm just talking about the documentary. It's free. It's on YouTube. It is.
Yeah,
awesome.
We're watching it right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The making of Stalker 2.
Yep.
Cool.
So there's that. Concurrent with this, that book that I think I mentioned earlier, Jason Schreier has written Play Nice, which is the history of Blizzard Entertainment. And this one's fascinating to me. I found out after the fact that he's written 2 other books, which I also own and loved and have recommended in the past. So he wrote Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, the history of the video game industry, or how video games are made.
Oh, yeah, I have that one. Yeah, that's good.
Great.
Yeah.
And Press Reset, Ruin and Recovery in the Video Game Industry. So he speaks to over 300 former and current Blizzard employees to get this kind of full history. It's astonishing. Like, it's amazing. And, these guys like me basically are like, I just want to make video games. And they good connections and got into the business. We're doing contract video games. Of course, they want to make their own video games. And they come up with Warcraft, and then Diablo, and then World of Warcraft, which is the thing that shot them through the roof. But they merged or were acquired by Activision, became Activision Blizzard. So there's that whole story. But there's this stuff that happens before then. They were owned by Vivendi, which almost went out of business, and they were sold to this company that had all this financial mismanagement and were sued by the SAC and almost went out of business and all this stuff. It's a crazy story, but it goes right up through Microsoft acquiring that company, obviously, at the end of last year. I kind of hoped there was a little bit more about the Microsoft stuff. I'm dying to know. But the whole downfall under Bobby Kotick and Activision it's unbelievable. It's a crazy story. And it's on Audible if you want to,
nice,
listen to it instead. Yeah.
Good recommendation.
Yeah, it's great. And
an app of the week.
Oh, yeah, that too. So, Brad, my friend Brad.
My buddy Brad.
They just can't. Actually, this is one I'm really excited to use. In fact, I'm excited to use it for Hands on Windows, the other Twit podcast that I do, because it's a product called Multiplicity, which they've not updated in a long time. And now they've got a major version coming out, Multiplicity 4, which is available in beta 1 form now. It's a software KVM, so a keyboard mouse solution. Yeah, It looks really, really good. So for people who have multiple computers they want to access, but have the one. Look, I'm uncoordinated. Maybe it's a dexterity problem, but if I have 2 systems in front of me with 2 keyboards and 2 mice, I'm always touching the wrong one, and this is constant. I can't not do it. So this is very attractive to me. And it's not there today in beta 1, but by the time this thing ships later this year, there will be a native version for ARM as well.
Nice.
So yeah, something to look at. This is
So it's a way to plug in that dev device I'm never going to get.
Yes, exactly. Right, exactly. Don't dedicate a mouse and a mouse, a screen, or a keyboard. Right? Yeah, it's beautiful.
Right.
Yep. So exciting.
All right.
Very nice. Moving right along. Time for Richard Campbell, and should we kick things off with a run as radio pick?
Yeah, this week's show I did with Doug Finke, we talked a bit about OpenAI and PowerShell. So kind of came into a 2-part conversation, because the first part was using OpenAI technologies like ChatGPT and Copilot and GitHub Copilot to write better PowerShell. And Doug talked about getting into things like Pester, the testing framework for PowerShell, which he learned working through Copilot. Like that, it literally led him down the path of how to write more testable PowerShell and to make that part of his build process so the quality of his PowerShell dramatically better. But he's also got a library now that allows, that calls into the OpenAI API, so that his PowerShell scripts are interactive with full language. So instead of having, press 1 for this, press 2 for that, you have much more better communication inside of your PowerShell script using OpenAI on the back end.
Nice.
So it's good. It was very fun. Cool conversation and interesting stuff. PSAI.
I like his picture. It's a little different than the usual pictures you have.
Yeah. Well, he had he's got a cartoon picture done of him, and he said, "Can I use that?"
Awesome.
And I'm gonna 8-bitify it. So that's how it turned out.
I love it. Very cute.
Yeah, it's a little different.
All right, what could possibly be the best whiskey of the year?
I mean, generally speaking, I'm not big on whiskey awards because I've done enough award programs with my own business to know perfectly well how manipulable they all are. However, the San Francisco World Spirit Competition is one of the oldest running anywhere in the world. It is, as far as whiskey competitions go, they are pretty dang legit. And this year's winner is for the number one spirit in the world is a Talisker, which is very unusual. They haven't won a major award in a decade. The Talisker 45-year-old Glacial Edge. So and this surprises me too, because old whiskeys tend not to win this sort of thing, right? You normally you rarely get a 12. It'll win. It'll be an 18 or a 20, but a 45 is pretty darn rare. Now, this is a Diageo product, and it's the link I've provided is actually to the Diageo Rare and Exceptional site, which is all a bit concerning. Again, this feels like ridiculous hype. So this means that in the late 70s, early 80s, which means before Diageo even existed, Talisker laid up a set of barrels and put them somewhere safe so that 40 years later, it was still whiskey. And the last few years, they did some interesting finishing. So enter a guy named James Aiken. And James Aiken is an adventurer who had, for the past 5 years, been sailing single-handed in a 33-foot sailboat called the Oaken Yarn. And one of his sponsors was Talisker. And one of the things he did for Talisker is he took a bunch of barrel staves with him on his Atlantic crossing. Those staves were then made into barrels to finish off this 40-year-old.
So the whiskey wasn't taken on the expedition,
no,
just the barrels.
So the barrels were exposed, right? The staves, so it's their pieces.
Right.
And they called this the Expedition Oak series.
That's
now, there's been a few of these, and it's kind of interesting. But this particular one, the one I call Glacial Edge, they went one step further. They took a bunch of what they called, this is the quote, American Oak Canadian whiskey casks.
Uh-huh.
So I go and do, it's Diageo. So who's it got to be? It's got to be Crown Royal.
Right.
And Crown Royal uses charred American oak casks, often used ones too. So they took 10 of those, they took 12 of those casks, and they took them to the high Arctic and left them outside for 4 days. The extreme cold supposedly creates cracking. So that opens up the wood to additional new flavors. But so they did a finishing treatment in this last iteration with this. And again, this is all ridiculous, pretentious crap.
Right. But
the only part I would buy into this is James Aiken is one of the supports this thing called Parlay for the Oceans, where they talk about communicating about the beauty and the fragility of the ocean. Like, it's a good charity, and I have nothing bad to say about that. Adventurers often tie these two things together. But the best whiskey tasters in the world have called this the best whiskey in the world.
It worked.
The quote is elegance personified. They've also said things like, I don't care about the silly cask toys and games you played. This is really good whiskey. And you're never going to have any.
Oh.
There's maybe 800 bottles of this in the world.
I noticed the button on the website doesn't say buy. It says inquire.
Currently listed on the last retail price I could find was 4,000 euros. If you look on eBay, running about $8,000.
Wow.
And no whiskey is that good.
Wow.
Right? That is a lot of money for a drink. But yeah, something interesting happened here. Here's the crazy part. For a whiskey that old, 49.8. That's surprising.
Ooh, that's high. That's high, right?
It's a little bit. I mean, obviously they have not cut it with any. I guarantee it's not chill filtered or anything like that. In my experience with whiskey this old is they tend to be pretty tarry.
Yeah.
Like, they're not a lot of fun. So
it's
that
not
is
wine.
unusual.
It's not designed to age like
I mean, I have to wonder if I go to the Craigellachie, which is on my radar for early next year, if there won't be a bottle open.
Oh.
Because the reflection, like a few of these other very rare whiskeys, are often there. Although they're typically, you're talking about a shot, an ounce, for 1,000 or 1,500 pounds. When it's a $10,000 bottle. And I've always avoided those for that reason, because there's only two outcomes.
How good could it be? Yeah.
Well, I either dropped $1,000 on a shot and it wasn't good, or I dropped $1,000 on a shot and it's amazing, and now I'm going to get divorced to buy a $10,000
because I want another one.
Right? This is not a good idea. Like, just stay away from that. You're only going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But,
don't want what you can't have.
Yeah, and it was ultimately not worthwhile. But it's surprising to me to see these absurd old whiskeys where these really qualified guys are going, man, that's a really special whiskey. How about that?
What it's okay. Obviously, it's not the barrel staves on the sailboat, and it's not the Arctic cracking. What makes this so good? Do you think?
I think considering 40 of the 45 years were in one place.
Yeah,
I think they put it in the best spot in the rickhouse. Most likely, they put it underground. Yeah, off the ground, but in a very cool, stable area, so that the ABV drop was very low. So that would have gone into the barrel at 62, right?
And it came out almost 50.
Yeah. So to only lose 10% in 40 years is a very, very slow drop. That means the humidity stays stable, temperature stays stable. It was a very easy age.
That's really, you know what? That's some good detective work. That's some.
What
good...
about the environment, though? Could they go in and check on it from time to time? I think this was sealed the whole time.
No. It'll be the back end of the rickhouse, or it'll even be a cellar. You know, there's a funny thing, and I haven't gotten into the story too much, like especially with things like Port Ellens, like distilleries that have been closed. That towards the end, they started stashing barrels with friends, essentially. So not necessarily in a proper rickhouse, and that's what I'm thinking. This dozen or so barrels that were involved in this process, they weren't in a rickhouse. They were in a cellar.
Right.
Maybe
They were deeper
somebody's
underground.
cellar. Yeah.
Something like that. Or it's an old storage room of Talisker.
Right.
I mean, Talisker's been there 100 plus years, right? There's a lower storage room that people don't normally go in. And it just quietly sat in there.
It's the Blair
Doesn't
Witch
it
House
intrigue
level.
you, though, just the idea that, wouldn't you like to taste that? Just to...
This is what I'm saying. Like, normally I would avoid this at the Quaish, right? But this one, because most of the time they don't win awards. This is not a thing, right? Old whiskeys like this is weird. And you realize, like, Diageo's not even in this for the money. There's not enough bottles for it to matter.
Right.
This is almost, it's just a weirdo.
It's prestige. Wouldn't you, Richard, you should be on these panels so that you would get to taste these.
I don't know that I'm that good of a taster.
Oh.
Right? Like I've dealt with folks who can take 3 parts of a whiskey, right? From individual barrels and then say, try this. And he says, that's got this element for it. And that's one got this element. We put them together, it's like this. And I try them all and I'm like, these are all pretty good.
Is this experience or just like a super taster phenomenon?
That's the thing. I think some of it's experience, but you also have to have a genetic predisposition.
I think there could be a genetic element to it. There's certainly the concept of a super taster.
Yeah.
Although you don't want to be that sensitive. These are still very strong flavors. And certainly a lot of experience. And I'm pressing against the edges of my passion here, guys. So you know what I love? I love great craftsmen and I love a great story. The idea of sitting in a room sampling a dozen or 100 individual whiskeys, I would stab myself. Like, it's just too much.
Right.
Like, I've done a lot of tastings, and by the 4th or 5th one, you're like, I could be drinking paint there. What do I know?
Exactly. This is the whiskey version of the table 17 or 27 wine or whatever, where you come home with a case of something from a tasting and like, what is this crap? And it was like the end table that night.
Yeah, the last one I had.
Yeah.
Turns out it was copier fluid.
Yep.
I love it.
So, I don't know that I could even qualify.
Is that a syndrome, the table 17?
Well, that's what we call it.
Like
I always change the number, but like
it's a really good
a table
name.
22 wine or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, that's a table 22 one.
Yeah.
And then lots of folks too peated for me, but I would say if you're a little bit older now, like I was not a big fan of peated whiskeys in my 40s.
But you lose some of your taste sensitivity.
In my, you think about in the past couple of months, what have I done? I've done Bowmore, I've done Talisker.
How long have you been drinking whiskey now?
Yeah, well,
like when did you start?
Years, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
when he was 21, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, Richard, is possible. You gave me my first scotch. I was in my
that's very possible.
late 40s.
Yeah.
What? You gave him his first scotch?
Yeah, you were there.
It
was
that was your first time?
Yeah.
And it's Supernova where they, I'm drinking an unusual whiskey, and you're like, I don't like whiskey. And I will immediately order you one I know you'll like.
So you drink bourbon usually, or peanut? You drink peanut butter whiskey. That's
I don't like being reduced that way, but yeah, so what? No,
Yeah.
I
vodka.
I do like smoother bourbons better, but
Yeah.
Butter?
like
Is
the
there a butter tart vodka? Because I will
Oh
drink.
yeah, there
that.
is. No, somebody gave me a bottle of it. I eventually set fire to it. It just hurt me. So you have to taste it, and after that, you're just making mistakes, right? So man.
Wow, we've
you
learned
put it on pancakes.
so much.
It's good.
No, it's not. You know what's good on pancakes? Syrup.
Yeah. Actually,
syrup
fair enough.
from
you
Quebec.
come from exactly from Quebec.
Hey.
You come from the country of syrup.
Yeah,
and
no,
I tasted on this
I come from the
cruise.
company of sap.
Yeah.
They brought out some remarkable
Yeah,
barrel
there's some good
aged
syrup.
maple syrups. I would rather do that than whiskey, frankly.
When I
You could do a whiskey.
when
You
I
could
go
do
to
a
visit
syrup
the
tasting where
family-
they have the different,
Yeah, they're so good.
colors and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. I whenever I'm going down to New Zealand, Australia, and visiting family, I bring liters of saber syrup. Stuff they just
Yeah.
can't get.
I get it.
But the liter jug from Costco in Vancouver is $25
That's
I
great.
know.
a week stay.
We used to bring peanut butter to England when my father lived there because they couldn't get it. You know, and
Yeah.
it was in the
Yeah.
90s. I'm sure they have peanut butter.
It's a
now,
thing. And it's one of the few foodstuffs you can bring into Australia and New Zealand because it's been boiled to death. Like, you know, the biggest, I always declare, because you have to declare foodstuffs. The only problem I ever have at the border is that the border guard wants to get it from me. It's like, I'll trade you a pint of Manuka honey for that.
You should
maple
just bring
syrup.
a little thing for him, you know?
I should. That he really can't actually take it. Like, that would be bad.
You know.
But you're right. I should get a couple of little ones and just hand them out. But the liter jugs are prerequisite for my cousin on the farm and my buddies in Sydney. Even Troy Hunt has them a bottle for me. So.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Do you visit with Troy when you go down there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I
nice.
officiated his wedding.
I'm trying to remember what the you did. That's right. I think you mentioned that. Wow. Trying to remember the name. There was a really good. I don't have it written down. Maple syrup we had. Anyway, next time.
It's all good stuff.
It
It's
means
boiled
I have
tree
to
sap
search
and it's
for it.
delicious. Yeah.
Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com when he's not in Roma Norte. THURROTT. Double up on the R's and the T's,
I
and
picked
you'll
the
get
best brand ever.
.com. Become a
didn't
premium
name a
member. That's where the
podcast
good
on there,
stuff
Rox.
hides. But there's also good stuff everywhere, all over that page, including this show, by the way. Thank you, Paul, for posting it on your website. Of
course.
And his First Ring Daily that he does with that guy, Brad.
The other guy.
The other guy.
The kid.
Gay. We don't like to talk about. Paul's books are at leanpub.com, including Windows Everywhere. And as he mentioned, the updated version of the Field Guide to Windows 11, leanpub.com. Richard Campbell has 2 shows, not 1, not 2, actually 3 if you include this one.
3.
He also has Run as Radio and .NET Rocks, and they're all at runasradio.com. Ibiza, have you done your talk in Ibiza? Are you moving on now?
I did my talk. I did a talk in Utrecht, and then I flew down today. No talking here.
Oh, you're just there
We're
for
gonna get it.
vacation.
Yep, this dude. This
nice.
is the couple that I originally married. It got that's this couple. They're there for their 50th anniversary, so that's why we're here.
Oh, have
so we're
a
gonna go
great
up to
time.
Lisbon for a couple of days after this, and then I have a conference in Porto.
Porto, right?
So,
Yeah. It's good.
So jealous. I
yeah,
love
I think we'll do a port next week. That's
You
good.
should. Yeah, you're going to be in Porto.
Yeah, why not?
Let's do a
grab
good
myself-
port. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
20
people
ton.
get the restaurant, tawny
Yeah.
port and don't really understand that there is amazing stuff out there.
There's some brilliant ports.
Yeah.
This is the one thing you learn as you learn more about alcohol. Any, tequilas like this, anything like there's
Yeah.
really good
There are premium
renditions
products
of
them
it,
all.
and there's a lot to learn.
And there's craftsmen behind each one of them, right? What I like is getting in with a person who really cares about what they make
Yeah.
and let it go to make that
I
product
agree.
amazing.
I agree.
Winemaking in Portugal, especially up the Rally,
yeah.
is unique.
We
It's
did a sherry
completely
tasting in Spain that was incredible as well.
unique.
I mean, it's fun. It really is fun to get into
really
that.
is fun.
We went to we started at where the grapes were grown, looked at the wine presses, then went down into town where they keep the barrels. It was just really
Sorry, what part of
wonderful
Spain was it?
education.
Jimenez, right?
yeah.
That's where all the sherry comes from. Jimenez.
Yeah. I can't remember the town name, but it
interesting.
was really incredible.
Yeah.
It was a life-changing experience, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I've been holding off on doing a full-on sherry piece, but it's coming because I keep having to crack the nut with different sherry finishes. So Especially, I'm like, why are these different? And you're in the rabbit hole, and you're like, no,
yeah,
it's another thing.
But it ties to whiskey because of the sherry casks and all
Right,
that.
the
So
finishings, yeah.
there's a natural kind of relationship.
100%.
This is fun. Thank you, Richard Campbell. Thank you, Paul Thurrott. Thank you all, you winners and dozers, for joining us. We do the show every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. We stay, thanks to the sugar industry in the United States of America, we stay in summertime until Halloween is over. So we will not be changing our clocks until November, which means we'll be at 1800 UTC until then. We will move at that point.
So, wait.
Does Mexico still do summertime?
They don't do it anymore. So it's 2 hours to the East Coast. So it'll be 1 hour starting in the beginning of November, I think. Right?
Yeah, first weekend in November.
Yep.
Because they don't want to do it in Halloween. They got to get the kids out there late at night. They literally lobbied the U.S. Congress to change daylight saving time.
Well, they should just kill it.
We live in such an interesting country, I tell you.
Just kill it.
All you need is some scratch. You can get anything done.
You can do it.
Yeah.
British Columbia has a law on the books that says if all of the other Pacific time zone states agree to stop changing, we're stopping too. And both that Washington and Oregon are already on board. It's just California. As soon as California says we're not going to change, it'll be over.
Here's the weird thing. We had a referendum which passed that we would stay on summertime.
Okay.
But you can't stay on summertime without a federal, because your time zone is standard time.
Oh.
Right.
So we in effect said, let's change our time zone. No, that doesn't work that way. We could stay on standard time and then you would go along with it and everybody go along with it. But you can't stay on summertime.
So interesting. How long ago was that?
A couple of years ago.
So nothing.
What a world.
Since, yeah.
I'm really trying hard to focus on the bright side of life.
I did focus on the Xbox stuff then, Leo. It's great.
Please.
It's nothing going on bad there. It's just, sunshiny unicorns. It's good.
If you want to watch, we do stream live on 7 different channels. There's X.com, there's Kick. That's for the right wingers. Then for the left wingers, we have LinkedIn and YouTube and Twitch. I'm making this up. And Discord for the club members. You can be on either side on that one of the aisle. And I think I maybe left something out. But anyway, we stream everywhere you can stream. So do watch us live. But if you do watch live, do me a favor, because we don't count live views. We can't sell those. Advertisers don't buy those. So do download a copy. That's how the advertisers count it. You can go to the website, twit.tv/WW. There's a YouTube channel dedicated. Again, it doesn't count, but you could watch it there. It's a good way to share little clips. Like if you wanted to share, just scare your friends with the best whiskey in the world, you could just clip that Talisker piece and send that off to them from YouTube.
But what I want for Christmas.
Yeah, this is all I ask. Just one bottle. That's all I ask.
No biggie.
No, if you're thinking of sending me that,
and
join
if you
the
would
club.
buy that with my Amazon affiliate account,
there you go.
that would just be great.
Best way to get the show, and the way that counts for us best, is to subscribe. Go to your favorite podcast player. We don't care which one, and subscribe, and you'll get it automatically every Tuesday or Wednesday after it's done, and you won't have to think about it. And you can listen at your leisure. However you listen, though, we do want you to come back next week for another thrilling, gripping edition of Windows Weekly. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Richard. Have a great week.